One Piece, Check-in Ryujin Jakka. West Blue, Cayenne Island. A brutal competition over the mysterious surgery fruit was unfolding. Corazon, where is Luo? Tell me, or else. On the pristine white snow, Doflamingo twirled the heart-shaped fruit in his hand, his laughter echoing coldly. With a dramatic gesture, he extended his hand towards the heavens. Because of you, everyone on this island will die. From the center of the island, countless sharp, unyielding white threads erupted, radiating outward. These threads, descending like rain, ensnared the island's inhabitants. Attached to these strings, their bodies moved against their will. With fists or blades in hand, they turned on one another in a horrifying frenzy. Some, untouched by the threads, tried to escape through the birdcage, a towering dome of threads surrounding the island, but were mercilessly sliced apart. Cayenne Island became a blood-soaked battlefield. The once white snow turned crimson, the earth now a chilling canvas of frozen, bloody glaciers. Birdcage! Corazon's eyes widened in shock as he took in the devastation. As a marine undercover agent, he knew all too well the depths of Doflamingo's cruelty. Even if Corazon revealed Luo's location, Doflamingo would never honor his word. Yet the weight of justice burned within him, warring against his desperation. Is there truly no other way? Collapsed on the ground, Corazon clung to life, his body riddled with bullet wounds. His last shred of hope was slipping away. Luo! As his vision dimmed, a sudden, blinding light erupted in the distance. A blazing inferno soared skyward from the island's west. The snow ceased to fall, the wind stilled, and the air seemed consumed by the overwhelming presence of fire. What is this? Doflamingo sensed the encroaching power, a force so menacing it spurred his conqueror's haki to erupt defensively. But it was too late. With a deafening roar, the birdcage, believed to be unbreakable, was effortlessly torn apart, disintegrating like fragile paper. Flames exploded into the sky, raining down in fiery torrents that engulfed the island. The once icy terrain melted under the scorching heat, transforming the scene into one of devastating beauty. The heart-shaped fruit in Doflamingo's hand was snatched away by the flames. Watching helplessly, his veins bulged with fury as his body trembled. Damn it! My fruit! What kind of power could do this? Victory, so close, had been stolen by an unknown force. With the birdcage destroyed and marines approaching the island, Doflamingo growled through gritted teeth. Retreat! Meanwhile, from the sea, marine forces were awestruck by the inferno. Doflamingo's actions are faster than anticipated, Vice Admiral Tsur declared, her expression grim. Alter the plan, land immediately. And stay alert, there could be unknown forces at play. On a secluded part of the island, a figure emerged. Roha, a traveler from another world, sheathed Ryujin Jakka, the oldest and most powerful heat-based Zanpakuto. He held the surgery fruit in his hand, its aura of mystery intriguing him. So, this is my sign in reward, Roha mused, a faint smile on his lips. A voice echoed in his mind. Ding! Congratulations! The god-level sign-in system has been activated. Cayenne Island Reward, Ryujin Jakka, a legendary heat-type Zanpakuto, its spiritual pressure rivaling Conqueror's haki. Sign in at famous locations to receive bonus rewards. Stay within range for successful check-ins. As Roha admired his newfound power, a small figure approached, Trafalgar Law. Under Corazon's protection, Law had escaped Doflamingo's chaos, but his eyes reflected desperation as he looked up at Roha, the man who had shattered the birdcage with ease. Please, save Corazon! Law's voice wavered, then grew louder with resolve. He's a good man. I can't lose him. Roha brushed past Law, seemingly indifferent. Undeterred, Law ran after him, shouting, I'll do anything. Whatever it takes, just save him. Without a word, Roha tossed the heart-shaped fruit. It struck Law gently before landing at his feet. Law stared at the fruit in disbelief, his trembling hands reaching for it. Use your power to save the one who matters most, Roha said, his voice distant. Tears welled in Law's eyes as he clutched the fruit, silently vowing to follow Roja from that moment on. With newfound determination, Law knew he would use the fruit to create a miracle for Corazon. In the distance, Roja disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind only the lingering warmth of his flames. Not long after Roja left, Lieutenant General he led a large number of Marines and directly surrounded the island, leaving only Corazon, who had just been revived by Roja and thus revived. Corazon! Where are the people from the medical unit? Come over and check. We must keep Corazon. Lieutenant General he looked at Corazon nervously. As an old friend of the Warring States period, she only learned of Corazon's existence from the Warring States period just now. This is not only Marine's spy, but also Sengoku's adopted son. He must be kept. Lieutenant General he quickly called the medical team and asked them to check Corazon's body. He took advantage of this time to check various clues on the island. General he came to a building and stretched out his hand to gently touch the burn marks on it. There were countless burn marks before his eyes. When he thought of the flames that soared into the sky just now, Lieutenant General he felt his heart tremble. What a powerful force this is! Just as Lieutenant General he sighed with emotion, the medical team had completed the examination and immediately came over to report to Lieutenant General he. Lieutenant General, Corazon's physical examination has been completed. When the captain of the medical team said this, his expression was a little strange. It's just very, very strange that Corazon's body is almost in a state of death from serious injuries, but his life is not in danger, and his blood circulation is normal. It feels like someone has performed a miraculous surgery. After hearing the words of the captain of the medical team, Lieutenant General his eyes suddenly sank, and he murmured, "Is it a miraculous operation? It seems that the fruits of the operation were taken away and eaten." Thinking of this, Lieutenant General he came to Corazon's side. Corazon, who was lying on the ground, saw the arrival of Lieutenant General he and wanted to get up, but was stopped by Lieutenant General he. "Corazon, let me ask you a few simple questions." "Yes." Although Corazon's life is not in danger, his breath is still relatively weak and his voice is very low. "Do you know the identity of the strong man who suddenly appeared on the island?" Corazon shook his head. "Then have you seen his face?" Corazon shook his head. "Where are the fruits of the operation? Where are the fruits of the operation? Do you know?" Corazon shook his head. He knew that it was Luo who saved him, but he couldn't tell Marine that it was Luo who ate the fruit. This is a kind of protection for Luo. I only hope that he can become stronger on the sea and find his own world. Lieutenant General he looked into Corazon's eyes, but he couldn't see anything. After a long time, Lieutenant General he sighed. "Someone, bring Corazon back to the ship and let him have a good rest." Later, Lieutenant General he took out his phone bug and dialed Warring States. Malinfando, in the office of Warring States period. Warring States, who was standing in front of the window, picked up the phone the moment it rang. "Warring States, Corazon is fine." After hearing what Lieutenant General he said, Warring States finally let go of his anxious heart. That's good. And where are the fruits of the operation, and where is Doflamingo?" Hearing Sengoku's question, Lieutenant General he smiled bitterly. As expected, the fruit of the operation was probably taken away by the mysterious strong man on the island. As for Doflamingo, he probably escaped when the mysterious strong man took action. Lieutenant General he told Warring States exactly what he saw. Warring States clenched his fists tightly, especially when he heard the monstrous fire burning up the snow, breaking through the birdcage, and stretching for thousands of miles. A little cold sweat appeared on his forehead. "I understand. Check the island again. If you find nothing, come back." After hanging up the phone bug, Sengoku notified Cyborg of the information, and Cyborg then came to the Holy Land Marijoa, where the 5 elders lived. "Cyborg, I hope you can bring me good news," one of the 5 elders holding a sword said to Cyborg. Cyborg heard the words of the 5 elders and was not disturbed by the words of the 5 elders at all. He stood in front of the 5 elders and said in a deep voice, "The fruits of the operation were snatched away." As Cyborg's words fell, The old man who was wiping his beloved sword stopped what he was doing, and the pressure on his body suddenly rushed towards Cyborg. "What did you say?" Strongly resisting this overwhelming momentum, Cyborg said again. "Cayenne Island, the island where we trade, a mysterious strong man appeared and took away the fruit of the operation." After confirming it again from Cyborg's mouth, the 5 elders fell silent. The tense atmosphere began to permeate at this time. "I don't know how long it took," one of the bald 5 elders said to Cyborg. "Issue a reward order for 2 billion Baileys. You must find the person for me, and I will ask various intelligence agencies to assist and investigate together. The identity of this mysterious man and the fruits of the operation must be in our hands." Cyborg nodded heavily, and then withdrew from Holy Land Mary Joa. Marine's movements were very fast, and not long after, a completely blank reward order appeared in front of everyone on the sea. All the islands controlled by Marine are covered with this bounty notice. They even cooperated with the intelligence tycoon Morgans to send countless newspaper delivery birds, striving to deliver this bounty to everyone. Moby Dick, a huge ship belonging to Whitebeard. Marco was looking at the latest bounty. When he saw this blank bounty, he was obviously stunned. "Dad, Marine has issued a completely blank bounty order. It only states that he will use the monstrous flame. There is no other information. The bounty is 2 billion belly." Marco's voice attracted the attention of other members. "What? 2 billion Baileys? Or a mysterious person who doesn't know any information? What kind of guy is he? What on earth did he do to make those rotten Marines so angry? Kula la la! Such a person, I really want him to be my son." The heroic laughter echoed in the Moby Dick, and the crew couldn't help but laugh out loud when they saw Whitebeard so happy. Marco complained from the side. "Dad, you're here again." On Cake Island, Charlotte Lin, who was preparing for the first tea party, also saw this newspaper. 2 billion Baileys! Marine, these crazy dogs, can really do anything. Katakuri stood next to Charlotte Lin and said, "Mom, to be able to make Marine make such a crazy decision, I think this guy must have done something that touches Marine's interests. Now let's hold the first tea party successfully. If this person dares to come, I will make his soul into a snack and eat it. I think it will be very delicious." "Okay, Mom." On a small island, Luo looked at the blank reward order in his hand and felt warm in his heart. The nearly invincible figure filled his mind. "When I become stronger, I will definitely follow you." On the small island, Luo's voice resounded. At this time, the protagonist of this blank reward order discovered a woman on the sea. Ding! Release the check-in task. O'Hara, reward, 99 Bakudo Grandmaster, time limit 3 days. The system's beep sounded in Roya's mind. Roja didn't know that he had been offered a reward of 2 billion. He was rushing towards O'Hara at full speed. Just when he was thinking this, he looked towards the sea in the distance, and he saw a beautiful woman lying on a wooden board, drifting on the sea. Without thinking much, Luo Adam rescued him. Alvia slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw Roja wearing only a cloak, she felt relieved. "Thank you for rescuing me. My name is Alvia." As the words fell, Alvia discovered the direction of the boat, which was heading towards O'Hara. Immediately Alvia said to Roja, "Are you going to O'Hara?" "O'Hara is very dangerous now." After hearing what Robin's mother Alvia said, Roja said calmly, "It's okay, you and I are going anyway, so don't waste time." In the early morning 2 days later, warships with world government sails slowly docked not far from O'Hara. Spangdine, who was standing on the deck, looked at the island in front of him, hidden in the thick fog, and showed a sinister smile. The sinister smile makes people shudder. "I finally came to O'Hara, the island of sin. I don't know if the woman who jumped into the sea to escape is still alive. It's really a pity that I didn't kill her with my own hands." As Spangdine finished speaking, he left directly from the deck and led the people towards O'Hara. Stepping on the land of O'Hara, Spangdine held his head high, as if he looked down upon everything about this island. "This island is simply too barren. I really don't know how the people on this island survive. It's better to just let me kill all the people on this island. When the subordinates heard Spangdine's words, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. They thought of what Spangdine had done before, and they really believed that Spangdine could do such a thing. Sir, let's go to the omniscient tree in the center of the island first to track down Alvia and see if there are any other things left by that woman that could threaten the government. Before his subordinates could finish speaking, Spangdine took out the gun from his waist, pointed it at the person who spoke, and pulled the trigger. Bang! Spangdine looked at this subordinate, slowly falling down, and coldly snorted. I still need you to teach me how to do things? After saying that, Spangdine walked towards the tree of omniscientity. Ding! Congratulations to host for successfully signing in. You have obtained 99 Bakudo Grandmaster. Bakudo is a type of Kido in the Shinigami world, which focuses on defense and imprisonment. A high-level Bakudo can even bind thousands of people with a single thought. Action. Just when the system's electronic sound fell in Roya's mind, the sudden burst of gunfire broke O'Hara's peaceful atmosphere. The corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly, and he murmured, It seems that we came at just the right time, so we won't waste too much of my time. Unlike Roja's calmness, Alvia suddenly panicked when she heard the gunshot. With anxiety in her eyes, she immediately ran towards the tree of omniscience. Roja looked at Alvia's retreating back and slowly walked towards the tree of omniscientity. At this time, Spangdine had arrived at the tree of omniscientity. Spangdine, who had just arrived here, saw a little girl running towards the tree of omniscientity. Seeing this, Spangdine waved his hand and gave a direct order. The world government's Special Intelligence Department performs special tasks. Anyone who is not involved and approaches without authorization will be shot by me. When the subordinate heard what Spangdine said, he frowned and said to Spangdine, But sir, this is just a little girl. Snapped. As soon as his subordinate's words finished, Spangdine slapped the person who spoke hard on the face. Do you want to reunite with the person who contradicted me just now down there? No, I don't want to. The subordinate quickly shook his head. Compared to the little girl, his own life was obviously more important. If you don't want to die, shoot for me, and shoot together. You must not be merciful to O'Hara's people. When Spangdine said this, he showed a very cruel smile. He couldn't wait to see the scene where blood flowed out. The subordinates did not hesitate. They raised their guns and aimed at the little girl not far away. Because once those old scholars of the Tree of Omniscience start to study, they will not be able to notice what is happening outside. The kind-hearted Robin wanted to come over and remind them, but he didn't expect that such a thing would happen. Robin looked at the black muzzles in front of her, and she felt her heart tremble. Are you going to die now? Clenching her little fists tightly, Robin thought of her mother. She had not seen her mother for a long time, and maybe she would never see her again. Robin! Suddenly, Alvia's voice reached Robin's ears. She looked at the girl in front of her hoarsely. Her speed became much faster, and then she rushed toward Robin. He held his daughter directly in his arms, turned his back to the muzzles, and protected Robin in his arms. As Alvia's words fell, Spangdine's men also pressed the trigger. Bang! 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 The sound of gunshots rang out one after another on the island, the muzzles of the guns spitting out fire and smoke, rushing toward Alvia and Robin. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. Robin felt the warmth in Alvia's arms, and tears burst into his eyes. No! At this critical moment, Roja stretched out his hand in the air and murmured, Bakudo number 60 for reflection. A translucent disc appeared in front of the two women out of thin air, easily blocking the bullets and counterattacking at the same time. The bullet shot back at a faster speed than when it came. Seeing this scene in front of him, Spangdine's pupils shrank suddenly, and he subconsciously pulled a subordinate next to him, asking him to use his body to help him resist, and Roja's bullets were reflected. The imagined pain did not appear. Alvia and Robin slowly opened their eyes and looked in the direction of Roja in disbelief. She didn't expect that the man who saved her would be so powerful. The sound of bullets piercing the air has disappeared. Spangdine slowly poked his head out from behind, and the subordinate he pulled over was already cold. And he relied on this despicable method to survive. Spangdain widened his eyes and looked at Roja in disbelief as he slowly walked towards here. His lips trembled, and his originally arrogant face became extremely pale at this time. What kind of ability is this? Who are you? How could someone like you appear in West Blue? Spangdain shouted at Roja at the top of his lungs. He glared at his eyes, but they were filled with panic. He is obedient to the strong but strikes hard to the weak. This is someone like Spangdain. Roja walked slowly towards Spangdain, and every step he took seemed to step heavily on Spangdain's heart. At this time, Roja had arrived near the Tree of Omniscientity. Ding! Congratulations to the host who checked into the Tree of Omniscient and obtained, with style, the Tree Realm has arrived. As the electronic sound of the system fell, Roja had already arrived in front of Spangdain. Spangdain was so frightened that he collapsed on the ground. You don't come here! If you come here, believe it or not, I will press this button. As he spoke, Spangdain took out a golden phone bug from his arms. When Alvia saw Spangdain's golden phone bug, she felt her heart tremble suddenly. Royal, this is the Buster Call button. Once the Buster Call is activated, the entire O'Hara will become a ruin. Hearing Alvia's words, Spangdain seemed to have regained his confidence and threatened Roja. Yes, this woman is right. Now you will kneel down and apologize to me, otherwise, as long as I press this Buster Call, within a moment, the entire island will disappear from the sea map. This represents Marine's super offensive ability. Roya's expression hidden under the hood was unusually calm. Roja stretched out his hand and said, Bakudo number 4 gray rope. A rope-like light cord appeared out of thin air in front of Roja. In its world, Shinigami, it was used to entangle and capture opponents. Rukia and Abarai Rinji both used this Bakudo. But now, Roja directly used the gray rope to take the golden phone bug into his hands while Spangdain didn't react. Feeling a light touch in his hand, the golden phone bug appeared in Roja's hand. Spangdain's confidence disappeared instantly. The confidence he had just now was shattered as if falling into an abyss. His only trump card had been easily taken away by Roja. He panicked, completely panicked. Alvia, who was holding Robin, breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the scene in front of her. But then, Alvia's pupils shrank suddenly. Roya, are you crazy? You actually pressed Buster Call directly. Things happened so fast that even Spangdain couldn't react. But when he saw Roja and pressed the golden phone bug, despair followed by hope, which made him laugh and burst out laughing. Press it, you actually pressed it. You wanted so much let O'Hara be destroyed. Ha ha. That's so stupid. Now let me show you Marine's strongest attack. Spangdain did not expect that the change would come so quickly. He felt that he was doing well again. The most important thing is that Roja is really stupid. How can such a stupid person be his opponent? Thinking of this, Spangdain's heart felt extremely swollen, because this was a Buster Call. Alvia's expression also became extremely solemn. At this time, there were thousands of soldiers on 10 warships outside the island, dozens of captains, and 5 lieutenant generals. At this time, I also received news from the golden phone bug and headed towards O'Hara. The cannons on the ship roared, and countless slashes flew from the ship, including the attacks from the 2 generals. Meteor Volcano! Ice Age! After receiving the order from Buster Call, the 2 people had no intention of letting go and immediately released their most powerful power. Above the sky, there were all terrifying attacks. Olivia and Robin both closed their eyes. They knew they had a chance to win just now, but they didn't expect that Roja would actually do this. They can already imagine how dilapidated and unbearable the island will become. Spangdain was laughing wildly. This is what you will get for provoking me. Now please go to hell and enjoy the cruelty of death. Along with Spangdain's wild laughter, the corners of Roja's mouth rose slightly, but under the cover of the cloak, no one could see it. I saw Roja slowly stretching out his hand and slamming it towards the ground. Wood style, deep forest creation. As Roja's words fell, the surging vitality contained in Woodstyle suddenly poured into the Tree of Omniscience. I saw the roots of the Tree of Omniscience being pulled out directly from the ground, and they were constantly entangled, forming a huge defense wall of roots. The huge defensive wall stretched for miles and was erected on the island, easily blocking all Buster Call attacks. Boom, boom, boom! Countless bullets, shells, slashes, and even the full blows of Aokiji and Akainu failed to break through the root defense wall of the omniscient tree. All the damage caused by the attacks that landed on it were offset and recovered by the surging vitality of Woodstyle. As the smoke from the first wave of Buster Call's attack dissipated, Spangdine, who had just been full of confidence, looked at the scene in front of him and swallowed subconsciously. He had never seen such an amazing scene before. His lips trembled, and finally he spat out a few words. How is it possible? The Tree of Omniscience is actually alive! Not only Spangdine, but also Aokiji and Akainu outside the island looked at this scene in shock. The two of them frowned. The blow just now was their strongest skill. But such a powerful force was easily blocked by this root-like defensive wall. What kind of existence is this defensive wall? No matter what existence is blocking us on this island, it is evil that must be eradicated. Akainu's arm was constantly glowing with lava. Besides, this is just a tree. I don't believe my lava can't burn it. Dark Hound! With one punch, a large amount of lava burned the air, and the high temperature made the air faintly unreal. Just hear a boom. Akainu's magma fist hit the defensive wall made of the omniscient tree. Boom! A deafening sound echoed in the sky, but the traces left by the flames were quickly repaired by the vitality, and they could not burn at all. What a terrifying repair power this is! This idea flashed in Akainu's mind, but there was no better way. And Spangdine in front of Roha felt that his forehead was covered with cold sweat. He also saw Akainu's attack just now, and even saw it more clearly. The moment the attack landed on it, let alone shaking, there was no ripple at all, and it was repaired in the blink of an eye. At this time, his eyes were full of fear. Luoya is so stupid. This is his confidence in his own strength. Thinking of this, Spangdine kept shrinking back, then suddenly got up from the ground and ran towards the seaside. He must run. This kind of terrifying monster is definitely not something he can stop. Seeing Spanda running away in embarrassment, Roya's eyes flashed with contempt. Escape? Where can you escape? I saw Roya pulling out his own Ryujin Jakka, and the sound of the sword roared softly in the air. Everything in the forest is turned into ashes, Ryujin Jakka. As Roha's words fell, Alvia and Robin only felt bursts of fire flashing in their eyes. The next second, monstrous flames soared into the sky. It is even more mixed with terrifying spiritual pressure that is hundreds of times, thousands of times more powerful than before. In the perception of those people, the spiritual pressure turned into the conqueror's haki that seemed to be substantial. Roha stepped forward, and the ground was cracked. The extremely sharp blade condensed with terrifying spiritual pressure and cut through the air. The friction between the air and the blade made an explosion sound, drawing a perfect arc from top to bottom. Ryujin Jakka's first move, caressing and slashing. The sword light flashes and spiritual pressure surges. The monstrous flames roared out. A huge slash was seen in the eyes of Aokiji and Akainu. Their pupils shrank suddenly, and without any hesitation, they directly used their strongest skills to resist Roha's attack. There is no way to break through the defense, so at least we have to resist this slash. Otherwise, the 10 warships behind them will definitely be reduced to debris. Ice Age! Meteor Volcano! Not only them, but the remaining 3 lieutenant generals also tried their best at this time to help Aokiji and Akainu. Boom! However, even if all the lieutenant generals' full blows came into contact with Roha's flame slash, they were all swallowed up by the slash, or used as nourishment to make the flames expand even more. Boom! There was another roaring sound, and the slash directly passed through Spangdine, who had just run a short distance, and hit Aokiji, Akainu and the other 3 lieutenant generals heavily. Even Akainu, who had eaten rockberry berries, could not withstand the high temperature carried by Roya's slash. They were all knocked away by Roja's slash. Under Roja's super high control, the flame slash crashed directly into the battleship outside the island. In an instant, the battleship shattered, and the flames swept through tens of thousands of tons of sea water, carrying it into the sky and falling like heavy rain. The sea water falls on the island, taking away the smoke from the island. At this time, the island returned to its previous quietness and clarity. Alvia's lips trembled, as one of the few people from O'Hara who had been to the island. She just felt that Roya was stronger than everyone she had ever seen. Okay, so strong! Alvia's eyes were shining with light, and she felt that Roja was extremely shining at this moment. Above the sea. Because of Roja's attack just now, the sea was surging with undercurrents. A large number of warship fragments are floating on the sea. Spandane endured the pain in his body and awkwardly dragged Akiji and Akainu to lie down on a wooden board. Akiji, Akainu! You two are simply a burden! You can't even defeat one person, and you can't even break the defense. How can you be a candidate for general? What a waste! Spandane was cursing here, but he still dragged the seriously injured Akiji and Akainu with all his strength. Fortunately, Roya's slash just now was aimed at Akiji and Akainu. Because he reacted quickly, the flames only burned across his back, causing extensive burns on his back. Unlike Akiji and Akainu, who were seriously injured and in shock, and because they were ability users, their various abilities and physical strength seemed to be sealed in the sea. If Spangdine had ignored him and let two people die like this, then his head would probably not be saved either. After going through all the trouble, Spangdine finally informed the 5 elders of this operation. As a special intelligence unit, Spangdine has the right to directly call the 5 elders. In order to reduce his own responsibilities, Spangdine even boasted about Roja's strength to the sky. At the same time, he kept blaming Marine and others and giving them small reports. My lords, Buster Call failed. All my men were killed due to their stubborn resistance. O'Hara's omniscient tree suddenly came to life. Buster Call was also defeated by a guy who used fire. Even Lieutenant General Akainu, who ate the lava fruit, was actually injured by this flame. And those guys from Marine, they are complete idiots, each one more cowardly than the last. There was no way to fight, they were completely defeated, they fled like crazy, all the warships were broken, and countless people were seriously injured. Marine sent such a poor team, and did not pay attention to Buster this time at all. Call, this is simply disrespectful to you. What Spangdine meant was that the enemy was too powerful, but we still resisted tenaciously. But Marine was holding us back, so 5 elders is requested to give him a lighter sentence. The 5 elders listened to Spangdine's words through the phone, their brows furrowed. They did not believe all of Spangdine's words. If it was really like what Spangdine described, then he wouldn't be able to survive now. But what made their hearts palpitate was the tree of omniscience that suddenly came to life in Spangdine's mouth, and the monstrous flames. About 3 days ago, on Cayenne Island, huge flames also rose up, taking away the fruits of the operation. It's also a blow, the kind of despair that makes people feel irresistible. They were basically certain that the 2 monstrous flames were definitely caused by the same person. Who is this guy? What is his purpose? Faced with such a guy whose identity was unknown and powerful, who was always against them, strong anger arose in their hearts. But they don't even know who their opponent is, so how can they start? Bang! A loud noise. I saw a bald 5 elders. In a rage, he smashed the table in front of him into pieces. I think we should send more forces to investigate the whereabouts of this person. The information we have now is really too little, not to mention whether we know his appearance, abilities, or even his true purpose. Don't even know! As for O'Hara, we can only suppress the news that Buster Call failed. The failure of Buster Call can definitely be said to have fueled the arrogance in the sea. It must be suppressed and must not be spread. The bald head among the 5 elders said, Increase the bounty to 3 billion belly. Anyone who provides information will be rewarded with 100 million belly. Let the intelligence personnel distributed on the sea collect information about this while completing their own tasks. I don't believe he can escape the dragnet of our world government. As for O'Hara, don't worry about it for now. If you find O'Hara outside the island, I will kill them all. By the way, let me investigate carefully. What is going on with the Tree of Omniscient, and how can they suddenly be alive? Still, with Marine on the side, it's time for a change. 5 elders and others, after discussing the countermeasures, made arrangements directly. On the other side, the Marine buster call failed, the mysterious strongman took action again, and the resurrection of O'Hara's Tree of Omniscience also spread like wildfire across the sea. Above the sea, newspaper birds fly freely in the sky. Not long after the buster call ended, Morgans, the owner of the world's largest newspaper, immediately printed the newspaper after receiving the news. As for Marine's Majesty, he doesn't care at all, he only cares about whether there is any big news. Together with this news about Luoya, she already has 2 pieces of news that are enough to make Dehai crazy. At this time, there was already an uproar on the sea. The first one is Roya, who destroyed Buster Call with 1 sword. His bounty has reached a terrifying 3 billion Baileys. You must know that this is only the second bounty. It's just that compared to before, this time Roja's strength can be said to have truly come into the sight of the big guys. After all, destroying Buster Call with 1 sword is not something that just anyone can do. As for the second news, it is that Golden Lion Shiki escaped from Impel Castle, which was said to be the place where no one can escape successfully. It broke the record of no one escaping from prison in Impel Down City for decades. These 2 things can be said to make Marine and the world government lose their face. This is a real slap in the face, and it is continuous. This makes the entire Marine and the world government eager to regain their face. For a time, the sea became even more chaotic. West Blue O'Hara, in the Tree of Omniscientity. Roya has been here for a day, holding Lil Robin in his arms and reading the newspaper. When he saw the news about the Golden Lion, an electronic sound sounded in his mind. Ding, release the check-in task, Wilmew, reward, a random talisman of the 12 zodiac signs, time limit, 5 days. As the electronic sound of the system fell in Roya's mind, Roja's eyes narrowed slightly. If Roja remembers correctly, Golden Lion Shiki came to this place after escaping from Impel Down City Prison. He wants to rule the world again with the help of his IQ plant, which can make animals go berserk. Robin sensed the change in Roya's momentum and immediately asked Roya, "Brother Roya, what's wrong?" Hearing Robin's words, the corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly, and he said to Robin, "Robin, my brother has something to do and may have to leave O'Hara temporarily." Alvia was right next to the 2 of them, and she also heard what Roya said. "Royal, where are you going and do you need my help?" Taking Robin out of his arms, Roja said to Alvia, "Olivia, do you know Vermio?" "Vilmio," Alvia repeated softly, and then her eyes suddenly lit up. "I know this place. When I was investigating the historical text, I once visited this island. Although I didn't leave a permanent guide, I know how to get there. And the villagers of Vermio are particularly enthusiastic." After saying these words, Alvia added, "Roya, wait here for a while, I will draw you a simple sea chart, I hope it will be useful to you." Robin looked at his mother, ran towards the table next to him, and then looked at Roja. Although she couldn't see clearly the face hidden under the cloak, Robin was very reluctant to leave Roja, just like her mother before. "Brother Luoya, will you come back again? When will you be able to come back?" Robin grabbed Roja's cloak, tears already welling up in his eyes, as if they would burst out at any time. "I'm just going out for a while. If I have time, I will come back to see Robin. If Robin promises me to exercise his fruit abilities, then when you become an adult, you can also go to sea to find me, and we can experience it together. The charm of the sea. Brother Luoya, this is what you said, you can't lie to me. I kid you not. Then let's pull the hook." Robin held out his finger. Roja also stretched out his fingers, hooked his 2 little fingers with each other, then raised his thumbs and made a seal with each other, and then Robin said, "No change allowed for 100 years. Well, it won't change. After Roja and Robin reached a promise, Alvia also took the chart she had just drawn and handed it to Roja. Royal, you are always welcome to O'Hara. Roja took the chart, hummed softly, and then left from the Tree of Omniscient. When he left the Tree of Omniscientness and walked towards the outside of the island, unknowingly, there were many people following him. They all came to see Roja leave. Because of Roja's existence, this island can continue. He is the savior of this island. Luoya looked at these people, and his heart was shaken. When Roja arrived at the outskirts of the island, he slowly turned around. After all, his departure was somewhat risky. Although Roja knew that Marine would not attack O'Hara again for a while, it was always better to be safe. Thinking of this, I saw Roja's hands forming seals quickly. Wood style, deep forest creation. As Roja slapped his hands on the ground, a large amount of vitality generated by wood style poured into the ground. The roots of the Tree of Omniscient were pulled out again, becoming thicker and intertwined with each other, surrounding the entire O'Hara. Roya only left a few entrances and exits, so O'Hara became an easy-to-defend but difficult-to-attack scene. After doing all this, Roja returned to his ship and sailed towards Vermil. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and a dog-headed warship and 2 ordinary warships were sailing quickly on the sea. A tall, broad-chested, muscular old man stood on the deck of the dog-headed warship. His eyes seemed to have passed through the vast sea, and he saw the golden lion Shiki escaping in a hurry, and said in a deep voice, "I didn't expect that the golden lion Shiki would actually break his legs and escape from the city. I guess it was I already had a plan. Lieutenant General Garp, according to the information provided by the world government, the golden lion Shiki seems to be sailing towards an island called Vermil," a captain said to Garp. "Vermelo? It seems that we are on the right track. We should continue to move forward at full speed. We must imprison the golden lion again to avoid future troubles." "Yes." Just after Garp gave the order, the navigator on the ship said to Garp, "Lieutenant General Garp, I found a ship sailing ahead. There was no pirate flag. I only saw a man in a cloak standing on the deck." Garp frowned when he heard the navigator's words. He knew, however, that a mysterious man in a cloak had appeared on the sea recently, and he was always against Marine. Thinking of this, Garp decided to go over and take a look. If it was really the mysterious man, he could just complete another mission. Following Garp's order, the 3 ships that were sailing at full speed immediately headed towards Roja. Roja was obviously aware of Marine's presence. Especially the dog-headed warship among these 3 warships, he knew that it was Garp's special warship. "The ship in front, please stop immediately and cooperate with the investigation." Just listen to these 3 warships, using loudspeakers and telephone bugs, shouting at Roja. Hearing their words, Roja pulled his cloak down. "Now is not the time to play with you. There are only 2 short days left before the check-in time for Vermil. According to Roja's speculation, the Golden Lion has almost reached Vermil, and has even activated its fruit power to make the island float in the sky. He didn't want these Marines to waste his time. Not even Garp." Thinking of this, Roja put his hand on the hilt of the sword and slowly pulled out Ryujin Jakka. "Everything in the world is reduced to ashes, Ryujin Jakka." As Roja's words fell, the simple sword blade ignited a forest of flames out of thin air, and the air was burned to the point of being unreal. With the surge of spiritual pressure, the aura of Conqueror's domineering force suddenly dispersed. All Marine soldiers who felt this momentum were stunned. The wind is blowing and the waves are raging. There are dark clouds in the sky. Even Garp's pupils shrank suddenly. "This guy's Conqueror's hockey is so powerful!" Just as Garp finished speaking, Roja slashed the air from left to right with Ryujin Jakka. The flames spit out, like a weight of 10,000 tons, hitting the sea and setting off countless waves. The swaying waves made Roya's ship travel faster, and greatly slowed down the speed of the 3 Marine warships. At the same time, a flame barrier appeared between Roja and their warship. This flame barrier is burning blazingly on the sea, and everything you see is covered in flames, stretching for dozens of miles. Blocking Roja and the warship, Garp had no way to abandon the warship and pursue Roja. This guy! Don't let me catch you! Otherwise I will definitely beat you up! Garp clenched his sandbag-sized fists and shouted loudly to Roja in the distance. However, Roja had already traveled far away on the waves and did not hear Garp's words at all. Garp frowned. Compared to this flame, he discovered that the direction Roja left was exactly the direction of the Golden Lion. Thinking of this, Garp immediately took out his phone and reported to the General Sengoku. Garp. Sengoku, I met that mysterious guy. Sengoku. Mysterious guy. Have you caught him? Have you seen what he looks like? Garp. None of them. We were blocked by the flame barrier he cast. The most important thing is that the direction he left was the direction of the Golden Lion. I'm afraid that this Golden Lion's escape from prison has something to do with this person. If these two people unite, then there will be another powerful force on this sea. After hearing what Garp said, Warring State's heart suddenly sank. I know. I will personally lead the troops to support you. No matter what, you must hold them back for me. Garp grinned and said, Warring States, leave it to me, but you have to come quickly. After hanging up the phone, Garp looked in the direction where Roja left and laughed loudly. No matter who you are, you will not be able to escape this time. Roja didn't know what was happening on Marine's side. He was looking at Alvia, drawing a simple chart for himself, constantly adjusting the direction, and sailing on the sea. By this time, Roja was no longer in a hurry. At the last check-in time, with only the last day left, Roja saw the island of Wilmio. But before Roja set foot on Vermio Island to sign in, he smelled the smell of blood that was constantly wafting from the island. This bloody smell was so strong that Roja couldn't help but frown slightly. With such a strong smell of blood, how many people need to be killed to achieve this effect? The ship stopped next to the island, and Roja stepped on the island. At this time, the system's electronic sound also sounded in Roja's mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for successfully signing in. You will get 12 Zodiac Talismans Chicken Talisman. This talisman can make the holder float in the air and control objects to float and move. Its function is similar to the Golden Lion fluttering fruit. Roja took out the chicken talisman from the system space. Looking at the chicken talisman in his hand, Roja held it in his hand and thought about floating in his mind. I saw a layer of blue light glowing on Roja's body. The light flashed away, and then Roja's figure floated up. Is this what floating feels like? Roja quickly mastered the use of the chicken talisman, floating and moving in the sky. When he floated to a certain height, Roja finally saw where the strong smell of blood came from. That was Vermio, a village in the jungle, where corpses were everywhere and blood was flowing, like a purgatory of horror. Controlling his body, Roja came to the village of Vermio. He didn't step on the ground, because the ground was full of blood, and only sword marks appeared on the ground. The sword marks continued to extend into the rain forest. A bearded man with blonde hair that covered the floor continued to slaughter with 2 swords at his feet. The sword energy was flying and wreaking havoc in the air. Every slash will take away fresh life. Jia ha ha! This is a world where the weak eat the strong. Anyone who has no power can only be slaughtered wantonly. Now I have taken a liking to this island, so you should disappear from this island. Golden Lion Shiki's eyes were red with bloodshot eyes, and there was a faint hint of madness. He had just escaped from Impelled Down City. Although he had lost his feet, he had replaced them with 2 famous swords, Sakuraju and Muku, which were mounted on his legs and used as limbs to move. But after all, he had just replaced it, and was not very familiar with it, so the Golden Lion just happened to practice with someone above Vermio. Use blood to hone your skills so that your strength can be restored in the shortest time. At the same time, he also took a fancy to this island, especially the IQ plant on it. Just kill all the people on this island, and then take this island as your own. Use this island as a base to gather other pirates. The Golden Lion can even imagine that in the near future, his name will reappear on the sea. But at this moment, the Golden Lion suddenly turned around and looked at the jungle not far away. The Golden Lion's eyes were staring at the jungle not far away. He only felt an unprecedented sense of tension rising in his heart. "Who is there?" As soon as the Golden Lion finished speaking, his right leg was thrown out like a whip. Without mercy, he sent a slash towards the jungle. In the blink of an eye, the slashes roared towards the jungle. Roja used the ability of the chicken talisman to float directly into the sky, easily dodging the Golden Lion's attack. I saw that this slash continued to grow as the distance went by, directly dividing the jungle into two, and then the houses behind it were all turned into two halves under the Golden Lion's slash. "I said I was passing by, do you believe it?" Luoya pulled his cloak and said lightly to the Golden Lion. The Golden Lion looked at the person floating in front of him, and a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. The Golden Lion grinned and said to Roja, "As long as you tell me what kind of fruit power you have, I will believe what you say." Looking at the person floating in the air in front of him, the Golden Lion felt that the person in front of him could pose a huge threat to him. He didn't know whether this was Roja's weirdness or his faint intuition. All in all, the Golden Lion is very disgusted with this feeling. Because he is a Golden Lion, the great flying pirate of the past. How could I feel heart palpitations just because of this mysterious man in front of me? Roja's eyes hidden under the cloak just looked at the Golden Lion calmly, and then he said calmly, "My ability is very simple, it is just that I can levitate in the air and control objects to float and move." As Roja's words fell, the anger in the Golden Lion's heart was completely ignited by Roja. "Jiahahaha, you guy, are you kidding me, right? How could your ability be the same as mine? You know, I am a Piao Piao man who ate the Piao Piao fruit. On this sea, there will never be two identical fruits." Shishawai earth coiling. I saw Golden Lion Shiki's hands slamming onto the ground. Using the ability of the Piao Piao fruit, he directly lifted up the entire ground and turned it into multiple lion head-shaped earth, crushing it in the direction of Roja. "Come over. Didn't you say that your ability is the same as mine? In that case, let's see which one is stronger, your ability or mine." 5 lion-headed clouds of earth, mixed with strong wind, rushed towards Roja. Facing such a fierce attack, Roja just pulled his cloak slightly, and with his other hand, he imitated the Golden Lion and pressed it on the ground. A flash of blue light flashed, and the ability of the chicken talisman was activated. The ground in front of Roja began to float, and dragon heads condensed in the blink of an eye. The dragon's head looks very realistic, even better than the lion's head made of gold lions, in terms of details. The Golden Lion's eyes suddenly shrank, and he subconsciously said, "How is this possible?" Boom! 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 I saw Roja's dragon head roaring towards the Golden Lion's head. Directly smashed the first 4 lion heads to pieces, and died together with the last lion head. Along with the fragmentation of the two people's attacks, dust was flying in the air. Golden Lion will never accept this kind of result. Facing a person with almost the same ability as himself, how could the Golden Lion just let him go? "You guy, you have succeeded in irritating me. In this case, let you have a try." Before Golden Lion could finish speaking, the sound of gunfire in the distance reached the ears of the two of them. Looking in the direction of the sound, I saw pitch-black cannonballs landing on the island of Vermio. As the shells exploded, small craters appeared one after another. Golden Lion saw 10 warships not far away, and a cold sweat appeared on Golden Lion's forehead. "Damn Marine, they sent 10 warships to catch me!" Golden Lion even saw Sengoku and Garp, whom he was very familiar with. Luoya was next to the Golden Lion. When he heard this sentence, he immediately said, "You are overthinking. These 10 warships are not only because of you. I think half of the credit is also due to me." "Half the credit? Could it be that you did something big before I escaped from prison?" "It's just some trivial things. It's just about snatching something from the tiger's mouth, grabbing what Marine cares about most, and then destroying Buster Call with one sword." "Destroy Buster Call with one sword? Jia ha 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 ha!" The Golden Lion said again. "You guys, you have a strong tone. To destroy Buster Call with one sword, that is something that even I can't do." After a pause, the Golden Lion said again, But you dare to say these words, and I think you have some strength. Do you want to join my flying pirates, and I will make you the deputy captain? I think with the strength of the two of us, we can easily escape from the hands of these hateful Marines. Then with the help of the IQ plants on this island, we will definitely be able to rule the world and accomplish what GOLD Roger cannot accomplish. Hearing what Golden Lion said, Roja was not interested. I refuse, I'm just passing by. Besides, your strength is too weak. Those who don't rely on themselves and take the power of other things are ultimately weak. With that said, Roja turned and left. He just came here to sign in and didn't want to get involved in the battle. However, Roja's words just now were like a sharp sword, piercing the Golden Lion's heart heavily. This made the Golden Lion, who had just escaped from prison, instantly become angry from shame. You know, he is the great pirate Golden Lion Shiki, the fleet admiral of the flying pirates, the great flying pirate. To be called a weakling. He will never allow others to insult himself. You say I'm weak? In that case, let me see how powerful you are. Chop! I saw the Golden Lion kicking out a giant sword energy with the Sakura 10 on its feet. This sword energy is at least 10 times greater than the sword energy just now. Everything that enters the eyes is caused by sword energy. Even Marine, who was speeding toward Vermio in the distance, was stunned for a moment. Sengoku on the warship even said to Garp on the side, Garp, did they have any conflict? Why did they start fighting? Garp scratched his head, but he didn't respond. He was originally afraid that Roja and Golden Lion would join forces, but from the current perspective, it seemed that they were overthinking it. When the Warring States period saw this scene, he even said, The snipe and the clam are fighting, and the fishermen will benefit. Everyone is preparing to attack. This time we must capture both of them. Sengoku and Garp led a large number of marine soldiers to attack the island of Vermio. Faced with this situation, the Golden Lion has completely ignored it. In his eyes there was only Roja. Just like when he was alone and made a big fuss in Malinfando. If he doesn't kill Roja now, he feels unhappy. The overwhelming sword energy rushed towards Roja. The chicken talisman was activated, and Roja's body floated to the side, easily dodging the slashing sword energy. I saw this sword energy falling on the ground, with a chi-lao sound, and a terrifying gap appeared in Roja's eyes. The aura of the Golden Lion suddenly spread out, its golden hair fluttered in the wind, and its kimono also whirred. You guy, don't you think I'm weak? Why do you keep hiding here and there? Do you dare to fight me head-on? This time, let me see how you hide. After the words fell, the Golden Lion's eyes, which were full of red bloodshot eyes, stared like copper bells, like a rampaging ferocious beast. Lion Thousand Slice Valley! This is an upgraded version of Chopper, which is more lethal than Chopper. Almost instantly, the Golden Lion kicked out several slashes that were enough to cut the mountain in half. There were countless slashes, with the Golden Lion as the center, venting wildly towards the surroundings. Even Marine was affected. Garp, Akiji! Warring States said to the two people next to him. The mysterious man seems to be retreating. Now that he is being held by the Golden Lion, we will immediately surround them. This time, we must capture the Golden Lion and this mysterious man. Yes, General. Sengoku, just remember to treat me to some senbei when you go back. Akiji and Garp answered neatly and flashed at the same time. Shaving. Keep moving towards the position of Roja and the Golden Lion. Seeing the fierce battle situation in front of him, Warring States prayed in his heart. This time we must succeed. Because he saw Roja's floating ability, he knew that if Roja was allowed to leave, it would be really troublesome to grasp Roja's traces again. Ice Cube. 2-thorned spear. 4 ice spears condensed around Akiji and shot towards the slash, blocking the slash in front of him. Iron Fist. Garp was much more violent. His arm-domineering energy was concentrated on his hands, and he waved his hands repeatedly, directly crushing one slash after another. Big Buddha form shock wave. Facing the storm-like attack, Sengoku directly switched to the animal type, Renren fruit, phantom beast species, and Big Buddha form, and shot out the shock wave in his palm. Wherever the shock wave rages, the golden lion's slashing sword energy disappears. The Warring States period is like a high wall, protecting the marine soldiers behind them. Only Roja used the power of the chicken talisman to float and dodge in the air. Golden Lion glanced at the Warring States trio coldly, knowing that he could not drag on like this any longer. Jiahahaha, in that case, my first show on the world stage will be here. Whether it's you, the hateful guy, or Marine, go to hell. Golden Lion Shiki felt as if he had returned to the time when he was making a fuss about Malinfando alone, and his aura surged again. Dark clouds slowly covered the sky, and the cold wind blew in everyone's hearts. Warring States frowned. Without any hesitation, he immediately ordered, "Attack!" As Warring States finished speaking, the Golden Lion moved. The Golden Lion used the ability of the Piao Piao fruit to directly control the dark clouds in the sky. The dark clouds continued to condense, and arc flashes could be seen inside. Thick lightning was about the thickness of a 1,000-year-old tree. The dark clouds mixed with thunder and lightning turned into the shape of a lion's head under the control of the Golden Lion. Shishiwai Gasho Heavenly Scroll. I saw the Golden Lion's hand raised high suddenly falling down. The lion's head composed of thick thunder and lightning clouds raged towards Roja. Akiji, Garp and Sengoku had no choice but to retreat in the face of this offensive. The shocked Warring States even said subconsciously, "I didn't expect that the Golden Lion's fruit power would be awakened." Garp grinned and said with a smile, "I don't know if that guy can handle it. Whether we can handle it or not, it's a good thing for us." At this time, Akiji said from the side, "The Golden Lion is no match for this guy." Because he had faced Roja before, that terrifying attack left a deep mark on his heart. As if to verify Akiji's words, as soon as Akiji's voice fell, Roja's figure suddenly rose. The strong wind blew Roja's cloak. Roja stretched out a hand to hold the brim of his hat to prevent it from being blown down by the strong wind. His tone was still calm. "As I said, I was just passing by. Why did I make things so troublesome?" A sword roar echoed in everyone's ears. The Golden Lion's Lion Power Gasho Heavenly Scroll could not suppress this crisp sword chant at all. The next second, Luo Ya's overwhelming aura soared into the sky. In their perception, the thick spiritual pressure is the super conqueror's haki. When the Golden Lion perceived this scene, his face was full of astonishment, and he blurted out, "This! How is this possible?" Ryujin Jakka was slowly pulled out by Roja, and the blade shone with a scorching light. Hot hell! As Luoya's words fell, dozens of sky-reaching fire pillars rose up around Luoya. They rushed in the direction of Roja. The three people from the Warring States period were forced to use Xiao to dodge. This was the first time during the Warring States period that he faced Roja head-on. When he saw such exaggerated monstrous flames, he was even more shocked and speechless. Akiji looked at Roja in even more shock, because he could feel that the power of Roja's blow was far more powerful than the sword struck by O'Hara. Flames all over the sky condensed into Roja's Ryujin Jakka, and Roja slashed in the air. In an instant, the situation changed. The surrounding space was distorted in the heat wave, and the flames and slashes merged together, with amazing momentum. The sword energy was roaring and the flames were burning. When Roja's Hot Hell and Golden Lion's Lion Power Gasho Heavenly Scroll touched each other, the whole world seemed to suddenly become silent. In their field of vision, there was only the dazzling light. Warring States squinted his eyes, trying hard to see clearly what was happening in front of him. Suddenly his eyes widened in disbelief. He saw that slash, which easily shattered the Lion Power Gasho Sky Scroll, condensed by the Golden Lion with the sky full of dark clouds and thunder and lightning. The dark clouds evaporated directly under the high temperature of the flames. Thunder and lightning were also easily eaten away by the flames. Mixed with unparalleled power, it slashed towards the Golden Lion with overwhelming force. The light dissipated, and it was not until this moment that the terrifying explosion echoed in everyone's ears. Boom, boom, boom. The blazing sword energy that Luoya slashed out gradually became clear and enlarged in the golden lion's eyes. At this time, he had nowhere to hide. Bang! Another explosion sounded. This is the sound of sword energy slashing down on the golden lion. Many Marine soldiers were shocked when they saw this scene in front of them. In their impression, the golden lion with great strength was actually defeated by a sword in front of this mysterious man. And it's still so neat and tidy. How can this be? This is a golden lion. That big flying pirate was actually defeated by this mysterious man with just one sword strike. They could vaguely see the outline of the golden lion, distorting as the flames steamed. There were no screams, only the sound of flames burning continuously. No one dared to imagine how much pain the golden lion was enduring in this blazing flame. If it were them, they would have screamed in pain and died. When the flames dissipated, a golden lion like Kurazumi came into view. The blonde hair that lay on the ground was gone, and the whole person was dark and smelled of charcoal. But even in such a miserable situation, the golden lion still relied on his superconsciousness to slowly stretch out his hand. Everyone who saw this scene was shocked in their hearts. No way, the golden lion actually still has the strength to fight back. Now that it's like this, is there any other power? What a powerful willpower this is. Seeing this scene, Roha knew that golden lion was already exhausted, but he had to admit that golden lion had a strong heart. So, Roha said softly in a voice that only the golden lion could hear. I take back what I said before. I admit that you are a strong man. After saying this, Roha turned around and activated the chicken charm. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from everyone's sight and left gracefully. The golden lion clenched his teeth. After hearing Roya's words, the seriously injured man suddenly thought of what he had said to Gold Roger at that time. You guy. I will definitely defeat you one day. After saying this, the golden lion couldn't hold on any longer. He closed his eyes and fell directly from the sky, hitting the ground hard and kicking up dust. It was only at this time that Warring States and others recovered from the shock. He looked deeply at the direction where Roha left. In the form of the Buddha, he held his hands tightly unwillingly. This guy actually escaped again. Warring States said bitterly, and at the same time released the form of the Buddha, and ordered to the people around him. Immediately handcuff the golden lion with the sea tower stone, and imprison him again in the infinite prison on the 6th floor of the city. After giving instructions on the follow-up matters, Warring States looked at the careless Garp beside him and said, The task is only half completed, and you are still able to laugh. Tell me, what do you think? I really didn't expect that this mysterious man not only has unparalleled fire and sword skills, but also has the same ability as the golden lion, and the fruit of the surgery should also be in his hands. I am really curious about what he is doing. How is it done? After saying this, Garp slowly put away his smile. But judging from the current situation, the sea is going to be in chaos. When Warring States heard what Garp said, he couldn't help but sigh. Yes, the sea is going to be in chaos. The appearance of this mysterious man has ruined our operations again and again, damn guy. This time, it was a sword that defeated the golden lion who had just escaped from prison. Although the golden lion had just escaped from prison, he was in poor condition, with both legs broken, and the great swordsman's peak state was no longer ordinary. However, the fruit's ability has been greatly enhanced. Even so, it was defeated by Roha's sword, and it was like charcoal. This is undoubtedly a refresh of Roha's strength in the hearts of the Warring States period. At this time, Roha was flying quickly towards the Holy Land Marijoa, because the system had announced the next check-in task. Ding, post assign-in mission, Holy Land Marijoa, reward, random top fruit with no side effects, time, 3 days. Roha used the power of the chicken talisman to float and move quickly in the air. But just moving like this is too troublesome. He plans to learn from the Golden Lion's method. After flying in the air for most of the day, Roya finally found an island on the sea. Without any hesitation, Roha came directly to the island. The chicken talisman was activated with all its strength, and a faint blue light covered the island in the blink of an eye. I saw this island slowly floating under Roja's control. Countless waters, after leaving the island, stirred up each other and set off huge waves. After turning the island into a floating island, Roja flew towards the Holy Land Marijoa. The Holy Land of Marijoa is located between the first half and the second half of the Great Line, at the pinnacle of the Red Continent. Inside is the residence of the Tianlong people, with a large number of top combat forces and intelligence agencies. It can be said that it is very dangerous to sign in here. But Roja already had a plan in mind. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, within the time limit of the last day. Roja arrived unhurriedly, high in the sky above the Holy Land of Marijoa. At this time, it was night, with dark clouds and no stars or moon visible. This was exactly what Roja had intended. He came here specifically at night. The floating island under Roja's feet seemed to be integrated into the dark night sky. It could not be seen at all, and no one would pay attention to it. Standing on the outermost edge of the floating island, Roja looked condescendingly at the Holy Land Marijoa below. Below, the Holy Land of Marijoa was ablaze. Roja could see the faint commotion below. Roja stretched out his hand and pressed it on the brim of his hat. If Roja remembered correctly, there was a turmoil in the Holy Land of Marijoa. That is Fisher Tiger, who was once a slave, climbed up to the Holy Land Marijoa with his bare hands, and then freed thousands of slaves. This time's commotion allowed Roja to fish in troubled waters and sneak into the Holy Land of Marijoa without being discovered. Leaning forward, Roja jumped directly from the floating island. The cold wind of the cold night blew Roja's cloak. As Roja headed towards the Holy Land of Marijoa, he landed quickly. The chaos on the Holy Land was increasingly reflected in Roja's eyes. As Roja quickly descended from the sky, he even saw Marinavando not far away, and he had already dispatched warships heading here. "It's really a beautiful scenery," Roja murmured, then concealed his figure and came to the Holy Land of Marijoa. The system's electronic sound echoed in Roja's mind when he stepped on the Holy Land of Marijoa. This fruit ability is very much in line with Roja's wishes. But he doesn't plan to eat it now. Wandering around the Holy Land of Marijoa, Roja wanted to see if there was any place where he could check in. But along the way, all that came into view was fire and fighting. Some slaves, in order to survive, framed their companions, just to give them a second or two to escape. Some slaves couldn't get rid of the shackles of the explosive neck and couldn't bear to see others escape, so they went on a killing spree. Even with red eyes, when he saw Roja wearing a cloak, he pounced on him. Then he was killed by Roya with a sword. There are too many such things. Jean Roja no longer wanted to continue strolling on the Holy Land of Marijoa. Just when Roja wanted to leave here, he heard the sound of running from behind. The sound of running was very thick, and there was no intention of hiding it at all. Slowly turning around, under the firelight, Roja saw only a red fishman with thick curly hair and a wide mouth, running towards him quickly. Roja's eyes narrowed slightly. He could tell that the fishman not far away was seriously injured. His body was covered with large and small wounds, and blood was constantly oozing from these wounds. If it weren't for the fact that he was a fishman, Roja felt that he would be a dead body now. The fishman obviously saw Roya. He didn't know who Roya was. Although Roya seemed to be dressed strangely, as long as he wasn't a guy wearing a white cloak and a mask, it would be fine. Immediately, Fisher Tiger endured the strong pain, took a deep breath, and shouted to Roja, "Hey! The guy in front! Run quickly! Behind, there are people with masks behind. The guy is chasing me." The person wearing the mask must be CP0. As expected, the man in front of him should be Fisher Tiger, the culprit of this riot. In an instant, Roy guessed the identity of Fisher Tiger. But when Fisher Tiger saw Roja, he remained unmoved, and he was extremely anxious. "Didn't you hear? Run away quickly!" Fisher Tiger reminded Roja loudly again, but when he finished speaking, blood suddenly spurted out of his mouth. He was dragging his seriously injured body and kept running away here. These two shouts could be said to have made his injuries worse again. But even so, he still did not hesitate, loudly reminding Roja that this must be the charm of Fisher Tiger. But at this moment, 5 guys wearing white cloaks and masks appeared behind Fisher Tiger. No matter who they are, anyone who causes trouble in the holy land of Mariajoya will inevitably die. Fisher Tiger's heart sank to the bottom when he heard the following words. He didn't expect CP0 to come so quickly. Immediately, Fisher Tiger gritted his teeth and came to Roja. Then he turned around suddenly and protected Roja behind him. I think I'm about to reach my limit. I'm responsible for holding them back. Hurry up and run away! Fisher Tiger almost shouted the last sentence with all his strength. Roja looked at Fisher Tiger in front of him and chuckled. You are really domineering, but I don't have the habit of hiding behind others. As Roja's words fell, Fisher Tiger felt as if a gust of wind was coming from behind him. I saw Roya rushing out from behind Fisher Tiger in an instant. When Fisher Tiger saw this scene, his pupils shrank suddenly. He wanted to remind Roja that the 5 people in front of him were very powerful. But his throat was blocked by blood. Apart from coughing harder and bleeding more, he couldn't make any sound at all. Fisher Tiger no longer dared to watch anymore. In his opinion, it was simply impossible to defeat these 5 powerful people with just one person. But the next second, Fisher Tiger's eyes flashed with fire that reached the sky. That was the most exaggerated slash he had ever seen since he was born. Blazing flames filled the sky, spitting out from the man's sword blade. With just one sword strike, the 5 people who had just beaten him to serious injuries were killed on the spot. Fisher Tiger couldn't believe it. Looking at the scene in front of him, he was shocked. How is it possible? Who is this guy? He is actually so powerful. Just when Fisher Tiger was shocked, Roja had slowly put away his sword and came to Fisher Tiger. It seems that everything is so relaxed and freehand. It seems that in Roja's eyes, those 5 powerful beings are as weak as cannon fodder. After adjusting his breathing, Fisher Tiger swallowed the blood in his mouth and whispered to Roja. Thank you very much. You're welcome, I'm just passing by. With that said, Roja bent down and directly picked up Fisher Tiger. Put me down, I'm just a burden. The closer he got to the end, the softer Fisher Tiger's voice became. Stop talking, I'll take you to stop the bleeding. Roya carried Fisher Tiger and walked towards a nearby mansion. The mansion is not yet burning with much fire. Roja kicked open the door and came to the room. Then he carefully placed Fisher Tiger on the ground, and used materials in the room to give Fisher Tiger a simple bandage. Just rest here for a while. You'll be fine as long as I'm here. When Fisher Tiger heard Roja's words, he felt warm in his heart. Just when he wanted to thank Roja, a burst of noise suddenly sounded from below the room. Fisher Tiger immediately became vigilant. Roya looked at Fisher Tiger, indicating that he was fine, and then found the entrance to the basement alone. The corridor leading to the basement was filled with darkness. Roja used his thumb to gently push out the sword, and a wisp of flame flew out of the scabbard, lighting up the corridor for Roja. As Roja continued to deepen, the noise became clearer and clearer, and it sounded like a girl's voice. Roja used the chicken talisman's ability to continuously float toward the ground without making even a single sound. Finally, when we arrived at the basement, the surroundings suddenly became clear. The basement is quite large, with flickering candlelight and dozens of slender iron pillars standing in the basement, forming prison cages. There was a girl in the cage. She kept hitting the chains of the 2 restrained people with her small fists. Her fists were already full of blood, but her eyes were full of determination. Sister, please run away quickly. As long as you can escape, we will be very happy. Yes, sister, being able to be your sister is the luckiest thing in our lives. Sister, leave us alone and run away quickly. When my sister heard her sister saying such words, she clenched her little fists even tighter. I will never give up on you. Even if I die, I will rescue you. I swear in the name of Boya Hancock. One of the traditions of Nine Snake Island is that once you swear an oath in your own name, you must do it. If you fail to do it, you will suffer the curse of Nine Snake Island. As for whether it was true, Roja didn't know, but this made him sure of the identities of the 3 sisters in front of him. After pretending to cough, a sudden sound sounded in the basement, startling the three sisters. Hancock turned around directly, made a fighting posture, and looked at Roja warily. It's just that this posture is untrained at first glance and looks quite funny. Who are you? Hancock looked at the man in a cloak in front of him, feeling extremely nervous. Because her intuition told her that the man in front of her was very dangerous. Roja did not answer their words, but walked slowly towards Hancock and others. With every step he took, the sound of footsteps echoed in this basement prison, as if stepping on Boya Hancock's heartstrings. Cold sweat unknowingly formed on his forehead. Hancock frowned slightly and said to Roja, "Don't come over. If you come over again, I won't be polite." However, Hancock's momentum at this time could not threaten Roja at all. On the contrary, it made Roja feel very lovable. Arriving in front of Hancock, Roja looked at her condescendingly. The other two sisters who were bound by chains were extremely anxious when they saw the scene in front of them. They quickly said to Hancock, "Sister, run away quickly and don't worry about us. As long as you can escape. Sister, we don't need your help, get out of here quickly. Just come at us if you have anything." Just as they were showing off their sisterly love, Roja's aura suddenly dissipated, and the terrifying spiritual pressure was like Conqueror's domineering force. Even if it only leaked a little, the two people were instantly afraid to speak. Hancock was shocked. What kind of momentum is this? It is so powerful. Looking at Hancock in front of them, Roja's voice floated into the ears of the three sisters. "You should know that the Holy Land Marijoya is very chaotic now. Why don't you take advantage of the chaos to escape? Even if you abandon your sister, as long as if you can survive on your own, isn't that enough?" This is the cruel scene that Roja saw along the way. If Fisher Tiger hadn't planned to give up his life to protect himself, Roya wouldn't have saved her life. It can be considered that good fish are rewarded. Hearing Roja's words, Hancock frowned slightly and said seriously, "Because they are my sisters, we were caught here together, and we must escape from here together even if we want to escape. I won't put my sister in hell." "In your eyes, is this a hell?" Roja's eyes were obscured by the darkness of the cloak, which made it impossible for Hancock to see Roja's expression. At this time, the atmosphere was somewhat stagnant. At this time, Roja slowly pulled out Ryujin Jakka, and the sound of sword chants echoed in the prison. Hancock's pupils shrank suddenly. "Whatever you want to do, I will never let you hurt my sister." But Hancock's movements were too slow. Roja didn't even look at him and slashed with his sword without hesitation. "Don't want!" Hancock's scream echoed in the basement. But there was only a bang sound, and the chain made of Hailu stone was instantly broken into two sections under Roja's slash. Hancock looked at the scene in front of her blankly, tears already rolling in her eyes. She was scared to death just now. She thought Roja wanted it. Fortunately, Luoya only cut off the sea tower stone chain. The moment the two got free, they came to Hancock's side. It's just that at this time, the three Hancock sisters have lowered their vigilance a little. At this time, Roja slowly squatted down and directly lifted up Hancock's clothes with a force that Hancock could not resist. What are you going to do?" Hancock's voice was trembling, and she felt extremely panicked, because there was something on her back that she hated so much. Luo Yu's eyes hidden under his cloak flashed with a flash of grayness, and he felt an increasing dislike for the celestial dragons in his heart. Touching the scar on Hancock's back, Roja said distressfully, "It hurts a lot." Roya's voice was very soft, so soft that it made Hancock's heart feel warm, like a warm current flowing through him. "It doesn't hurt any more, don't look at it." Hancock's back was turned to Roja at this time, and her small fists were clenched tightly, telling her of the unrest in her heart. The pattern on the back is the pattern she hates the most. If possible, she wants to hide this secret in her heart forever. But such a secret was exposed to Roja's eyes at this time, which made her feel ashamed. "Want to change the pattern?" "What?" Hancock didn't react for a while. What did Roja mean by this sentence? "This pattern really doesn't suit your temperament. It's too ugly. I'd better change it for you." "What pattern do you want?" Don't worry, it won't hurt. Hancock was stunned for a moment. She didn't know what she was feeling in her heart. She just felt like there was a little deer bumping back and forth. For the first time, she felt that the man in front of her was very gentle. I don't know. In this case, I will use the phoenix to cover this brand. This is one of the totems of my country. It is a symbol of strength, pride, and holiness, and it also has the meaning of nirvana and rebirth. When Hancock heard Roja's words, she nodded vigorously. If possible, she would also like to use other patterns to devour the patterns behind her. Ryujin Jakka breathed out flames, and under Roja's control, a pattern of Phoenix Nirvana was outlined by Roja in a short period of time, floating in the air out of thin air. As Roja continued to control the temperature, the pattern instantly swallowed the hooves of the heavenly dragon behind Hancock, turning into a pattern specially created by Roja for Hancock. When Hancock's sisters saw this scene, they subconsciously exclaimed, "Okay, so beautiful." Hancock didn't feel the slightest pain, she only felt that her back was very warm. This kind of warmth was a feeling that she had never experienced before. Soon, the image of a phoenix rising from the ashes appeared behind Hancock. "It looks much better this way." This sentence was like a warm current, instantly touching the softest part of Hancock's heart. The tears that had been swirling in his eyes finally couldn't help but fall from the corners of his eyes at this moment. I saw Hancock's small body throwing himself directly into Roja's arms. Thank you for saving us. No one has been so kind to us since we were captured near Nine Snake Island." Patting Hancock's back gently, Luya acted as the big brother and said gently, "Okay, let me make a new pattern for your two sisters now." Having said this, Roja looked at the two sisters behind Hancock and said, "I heard from her that you are from Nine Snakes Island. I will draw a 9 snakes pattern for you too. What do you think?" Soon, Luya used the 9 snake pattern to cover the two women's hooves of the heavenly dragon. "Thank you, my name is Boya Hancock, you can just call me Hancock. My name is Poya Sundarsonia. My name is Boya Marigold." Roja looked at Hancock, who was slightly embarrassed, and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. "Roya." Hearing Roja's name, Hancock felt his face blush even more. "Sister, are you sick? Why is your face so red?" When Hancock heard his sister's words, he instantly reacted from his shyness and said immediately, "We must escape now, otherwise we will have no chance." As he spoke, Hancock looked at Roja. "Just listen to Luya say lightly, 'I will take you away.'" The girls nodded. Although the time they spent together was very short, Hancock and others already believed in Roja. Especially Hancock, whose eyes were filled with Roya's figure at this time. Coming out of the basement, Roya said to Fisher Tiger, "Do you feel better?" "Better." Fisher Tiger got up from the ground. As a fishman, in this short period of time, the wounds on his body had completely stopped bleeding. "Then let's leave from Mariaja." With that said, Roja took the lead and walked in front. Next are Hancock's 3 daughters, with Fisher Tiger behind to prevent any accidents from happening to these 3 women. As they got closer to the beach, Hancock's eyes became brighter and brighter. Because this represents freedom and the vast sea, it is the place they have always longed for most. "Great, we can escape soon." Just when Hancock finished speaking, a ray of light appeared in front of everyone, and at the same time there was an extremely frivolous word. "Escape? It's impossible." As the light dissipated, a tall and thin man with curly black hair, wearing a yellow and white striped suit, a beard on his face, and a pair of sunglasses appeared in front of everyone. Fisher Tiger looked at the man in front of him in disbelief. "Hi, Marine Lieutenant General! Juan Kizaru!" Kizaru is one of the 3 monsters of Marine, and Fisher Tiger has heard of Kizaru's name. When he saw Kizaru coming to them, he felt like he was enveloped in despair. Kizaru looked down at Roja and the others in the air, and spoke to everyone with his very funny mouth shape and slow speaking style. "It's so scary, I didn't expect that Fisher Tiger and this mysterious man actually know each other, but after defeating you, my salary will increase a lot." This sentence is crazy. But Kizaru also has crazy strength. As a user of the shining fruit, Kizaru has extremely high mobility and super penetrating attacks. These two characteristics alone are far superior to other Logia fruits. It can be said that this is already one of the top Logia fruits. Just listen to Kizaru saying to Roha, "Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light?" As Kizaru's words fell, his figure changed into yellow light and rushed towards Roha. Light speed kick. This speed is so fast that it is beyond the reach of the naked eye. But Roha didn't pay attention at all. In front of Roha, 6 paths light sheets appeared, directly capturing Kizaru's figure and imprisoning him in it. It was only then that Roha slowly said, 6-stick light prison! The whole process was a breeze, smooth, and seemed extremely effortless. Kizaru, who was imprisoned in the 6-staff light prison, looked at the situation in front of him in disbelief. How can this be? Not only Kizaru himself didn't believe that he would be blocked by Roya so easily. Even Fisher Tiger was stunned on the spot. One move, and with just one move, Kizaru's attack was blocked. Fisher Tiger was so shocked that he was speechless. He didn't expect that Kizaru, who was so arrogant just now and wanted to use them to increase his salary, would be subdued by Roya with one move. Hancock gently pulled Roha's cloak, and his eyes were full of Roha's figure. She just thinks that Roha is really awesome. I hope Marine can reimburse you for your medical expenses. As Roha's words fell, Roha turned the hilt of his sword, holding Ryujin Jakka, pointed at Kizaru's head, and said softly, Satswaki! Bang! Flame blooms. The tornado-shaped wall of flames directly wrapped Kizaru. The blazing high temperature continued to burn Kizaru's body. Kizaru wanted to dodge and control the elementalization of his body, but he was tightly restrained by the 6-stick light and could not make any movement at all. Let's go! After Roha slowly put Ryujin Jakka into the scabbard, he led everyone to leave the holy land of Marijoa. Roha directly found a warship and drove the warship towards the distance. On the deck of the warship, Roha let the sea breeze blow his cloak. Roya touched Hancock's hair with one hand and said to Hancock, Do you hate this place? Hancock nodded heavily. What she felt about this place, apart from pain, was nothing but abhorrence. In that case, let me give them a big gift. Roha slowly raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Hancock looked around strangely, but she didn't notice any changes in her surroundings. Suddenly Fisher Tiger pointed to the sky, his pupils full of shock. Heaven, sky! Look at the sky! After hearing Fisher Tiger's words, everyone looked to the sky and saw. I saw a huge island in the sky above the holy land of Marijoa, as if it was about to break through the shackles of the shadow. As it continued to land, the firelight of the holy land Marijoa was reflected on the island. The sharp wind whistled, blowing on everyone's hearts. What it is! Look at the sky, why are islands falling from the sky? The island fell down. It's over, we're done! The atmosphere of despair is spreading. Everyone looked at the huge islands falling from the sky and wanted to escape, but they didn't know where to escape. Because the entire holy land of Marijoa is within the falling range of the island. Kizaru, who finally broke free from the 6-staff light prison, was already in a very embarrassed state. Kizaru dragged his body forcefully, and his body was already covered with burns. He didn't expect Roha to be so powerful, and he didn't expect that the ability called the 6-wand light prison could actually prevent his elementalization. But when he looked at the islands that were landing in the sky, his usual tone was forgotten. Damn it, is this guy doing this again? After the power of the talisman was released, the floating island began to fall from the sky, causing strong friction with the air. As the falling speed became faster and faster, the entire island had turned into a huge fireball at this time. The island must be prevented from landing. Otherwise, his salary this month will definitely be deducted. For his own salary, Kizaru took a deep breath, crossed his hands, and pinched his index finger and thumb. 8-foot beautiful Magatama! I saw Kizaru's fingertips flashing with light, and countless dazzling bullets were shot towards the islands that were landing continuously. Every time a light bomb falls on the island, a strong explosion will occur. Boom, boom, boom! The intensive explosion caused the island to continuously shatter, splattering out fragments of different sizes. But these explosions, compared to the entire floating island, are undoubtedly a drop in the bucket. His strength alone is completely insufficient. At this moment, a man wearing a military hat came to Kizaru's side. Meteor volcano! The visitor is none other than Akainu. Akainu's fists turn into lava, producing a large number of huge lava fists, which are launched towards the island in the sky. However, with their current strength, it is still difficult to fight against this huge island. On the warship, Roha looked at the scene in front of him and thought to himself, he should take action. As if to confirm Roha's thoughts. The deepest part of the Holy Land, Ryujin, is a place called Between Flowers. A sharp sword energy shot out of the air. This slash covered the sky and covered 1,000 meters in length. Wherever the sword energy passes, the sword energy roars, which is extremely terrifying. I saw this extremely sharp sword strike covering the island above everyone's heads. Suddenly 1 is divided into 2, 2 is divided into 4, and 4 is divided into 8, constantly changing. In the blink of an eye, the sword energy split into thousands of slashes, like a violent hurricane, sweeping up the island. In front of this sword energy storm, the island was like paper, being constantly shredded. In just a few moments, the huge island in the sky turned into ashes and scattered in the wind. Kizaru and Akainu of Holy Land Ryujin both looked at the scene in front of them in shock. They didn't expect that the island they couldn't destroy after all their hard work would just turn into dust. On the boat, Roha raised the corners of his mouth slightly when he saw the scene in front of him. He stretched out his hand, stroked Hancock's hair, and said to Hancock, "It seems that our gift was not delivered today, but I promise you, one day, I will give them a gift. A bigger gift. Roha said again. Now, let me send you back to Nine Snakes Island first. As Roha's words fell, the system's electronic sound sounded in his mind. Ding! Release the check-in mission, 9 Snakes Island, reward, peak of armed color domineering. Time, 3 days. 1 day has passed since I left the Holy Land Ryujin. At this time, the sky was cloudless and the sun was just right. Coupled with the high maneuverability of the warship, it can be said that this is the most relaxing and comfortable journey for Roha. Lying on the edge of the boat, letting the sea breeze blow on his cloak, Roha said, "Are you ready to leave?" Fisher Tiger, standing behind Roha, said, "I plan to return to Fishman Island to take a look. Be safe." I guess Fisher Tiger had his own plans, so Roha didn't try to persuade him to stay, he just gave him some instructions. Fisher Tiger, if you come to Fishman Island, you must come to me. Feeling the heroism in Fisher Tiger's tone, the corners of Roya's mouth under his cloak rose slightly. Watching Fisher Tiger jump into the sea and leave in a blink of an eye, Roya also returned to his room. At night, the moon and stars are sparse. At this time, the warship had reached the windless zone. The so-called windless zone, because there is no wind, is very dangerous for ships that rely on sails as power. Not only that, there are also a large number of Poseidon species living in the windless zone. These Poseidons generally rely on their size and length to judge their strength. 1,000 meters is average, and any lieutenant general can defeat it if he spends some time. The 3,000-meter one is already relatively strong, and requires the presence of multiple lieutenant generals or generals to defeat it. As for those with a body size of 5,000 meters or above, it is basically difficult to kill except for special means. Due to its size, it is difficult to penetrate Poseidon-type defenses. Even a general would find this kind of existence difficult to deal with. Roya walked out of the room and saw Hancock standing alone on the deck, looking at the hazy night in the distance. Roya came to her side. "Are you homesick?" "Well." Hancock looked up at Roha and said to Roha, Roha, don't you miss home?" For some reason, Hancock felt his face turn red when he called out Roha's name. Fortunately, night had fallen, otherwise Hancock felt that Roha would definitely be able to see the blush on her face. "I don't even want to." Why? Because there is nothing worth cherishing. When Hancock heard Roja's words, his nose felt sore. She raised her hand, gently pulled Roya, and said to Roya, "Roya, let me." Before Hancock could finish speaking, a vigilant light flashed in Roja's eyes. The spell ability is activated, directly pulling the warship and flying towards the sky. I saw the extremely dark sea water, and at this time, huge waves were set off. A black shadow, reflecting the moonlight, surged out of the sea, as if it wanted to swallow the warship in one gulp. Countless amounts of sea water slipped from the black shadow's body and hit the sea surface, causing even bigger waves. Fortunately, Roja used the power of the spell to pull the warship into the sky. At the same time, he grabbed Hancock and protected him directly in his arms. At this time, the two women in the warship also ran out. "Sister, what happened?" The two of them were very panicked, but when they saw Hancock in Roya's arms, they felt relieved. The moonlight shines on this black shadow, allowing Roja and the girls to clearly see what it is. This is a Poseidon that is so huge that even if only one head is exposed, it seems to be over 1,000 meters long. The length of the whole body, as expected, can easily exceed 5,000 meters. This is an existence that gives even generals a headache. Hancock was in Roya's arms, and his pupils shrank suddenly. She hurriedly grabbed Roya and said to Roya, "Roya, this is the legendary deep-sea sea snake of Nine Snake Island. Legend has it that when this snake reaches adulthood, its body length can reach at least 5,000 meters." After hearing Hancock's words, Roja became even more concerned about this legendary deep-sea sea snake. "I didn't expect that there is such an existence in the sea." This sea snake can be said to have greatly attracted Roja's attention. After reaching a certain height, Roja let Hancock go, and then said to Hancock, "Since it is a legendary creature, let me see how strong it is." With that said, Roya jumped off the warship, leaving only Hancock and her two sisters. It's a nice night today, with clear moonlight. When Roya jumped from the warship, strong winds swept around him, making Roya's cloak whistle. For this Poseidon class, there is no need to say hello at all. Roja pulled out the Ryujin Jakka in the air, flames erupted from the blade, leaving a bright streak of fire in the air. This firelight was very dazzling in the night, and it immediately attracted this snake-like Poseidon that was 5 kilometers long. The sea water surges and the waves surge into the sky. As the sea water continued to rise, the Poseidon's tail instantly broke through the water's surface and was drawn towards Roja from the depths of the sea. It seems very slow, but in fact, both speed and power are very exaggerated. Hancock, who was worried about Roya, lay on the edge of the boat and saw the scene in front of him. Fang's heart suddenly rose. "Roya, be careful." As if hearing Hancock's voice, Roja also noticed the Poseidon-like movements. "If it were anyone else, it might be more troublesome, but who made you meet me? Everything in the world is reduced to ashes." Ryujin Jakka. As Roja's words fell, Ryujin Jakka burst into bright fire. The blazing flames soared into the sky. Roja, who holds Ryujin Jakka in his hand, has eyes full of fire. Ryujin Jakka after Bankai, the temperature can reach 10 million degrees Celsius, which is the temperature of the core of the sun. Although Roja can't do this yet, even Shurkai is enough. It is equivalent to the surface temperature of the sun of 6,000 degrees Celsius. At this time, the restraints are completely released. This is the first time Roja has released the full power of Shurkai since he came to the world of pirates. Before Roja arrived in front of the Poseidons, the sea within a certain range had already begun to boil. Roar! As if feeling the burning heat in the sea, this 5,000-meter-long Poseidon seemed to become more fierce. The speed of tail lashing seemed to be a little faster. In the blink of an eye, it came roaring. Roja didn't pay attention to Poseidon's attack. The power of the spell was activated, and the speed of his whole person's descent became several times faster. At this time, Ryujin Jakka burst out with unparalleled flames and turned into a glass-like flaming blade. At the same time, a huge pillar of fire from 6 paths rose out of thin air from the sea, whipping up a strong hurricane and soaring into the sky. A red lotus with a radius of several thousand feet spread out mysteriously on the sea. Millions of hectares of sea water all surged up, forming a huge wave thousands of feet high, and a roar like the roar of tens of thousands of giant dragons exploded at the same time. Burn the sky and boil the sea. As Roja finished speaking, Ryujin Jakka stabbed directly into the eye of this nearly 5,000-meter Poseidon. The flames bloomed at this moment. I saw a slash of nearly 1,000 meters, slashing directly from the head. Because he was holding the sword with both hands, the strong wind blew Roja's cloak away. The Poseidon opened its mouth and wanted to roar, but found that its body had been cut into 2 sections. The blood mixed with the firelight dyed the vast ocean red. Hancock was on the warship, looking at the ocean below. The entire ocean turned into a sea of fire. The sky was illuminated fiery red, and through the flames she could clearly see that the nearly 10,000-meter-long ocean was boiling. Okay, so awesome. Hancock's eyes were full of stars. In her heart, Roja is the strongest, and no one can compare with Roja. But when she looked at Roja, she was instantly stunned because she saw Roja taking off his cloak. The flames filling the sky and the scenes on the sea can be seen even from far away. In Nine Snake Island, the current emperor of Amazon Lily and the captain of the Nine Snakes pirates also noticed this scene. She was in the palace, looking at the monstrous sea of fire in the windless zone, and her heart suddenly sank. How powerful is a person who can do this? Most importantly, it also appears in calm zones. This shows that this person's target may be Nine Snakes Island. Thinking of this, she immediately ordered, "Get ready to fight." On Nine Snakes Island, most people have mastered the armed hockey and the hearing hockey. They can be said to be warriors per capita. After receiving the order from the current emperor, they immediately equipped themselves with weapons and began to ambush in the jungle facing the direction of the flames. On the other side, it was not far from the Sea of Fire. A small boat sailed slowly on the sea. There was an old woman who was shorter than ordinary people on the small boat. She had a flower in her white wavy hair. She was holding a pet snake and a curled cane in her hand, looking at the scene in front of her with a stern expression. Could this flame really be that person? The old woman murmured and reached out her hand to touch the sea water. Hiss. The old woman sucked in a breath of cold air, and then said in shock, "The sea water is so hot at such a long distance. This is too scary." After saying that, the old woman sat on the wooden plank above the boat. Within a few seconds, the old woman immediately jumped up and shouted, "Hot, hot, hot." If any outsiders saw this scene, they would definitely find it very funny. After completely finishing this Poseidon class, Roja slowly put away Ryujin Jakka. He touched his hair and raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Oh, it seems Hancock and the others must have seen it. After a pause, Roja looked at the warship in the sky and activated his spell ability. When Roja returned to the warship, he thought at the same time, well, if they saw it, and there were no other outsiders, right? As soon as he returned to the warship, Roja saw a small figure rushing towards him. Suddenly he got into Roja's arms. Hancock hugged Roja tightly and raised his head, his big watery eyes full of admiration for Roja. Luoya, you are so awesome." After saying this, Hancock's face looked a little rosy, and he didn't know whether it was because of shyness or because he was exposed to the firelight. Hancock said again, "And he's very handsome and looks so gentle." The corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly. He stroked Hancock's hair lovingly and said, "Okay, let's continue sailing towards Nine Snakes Island." After saying this, Roja fixed the cloak again. From beginning to end, Hancock's eyes were always on Roja. "Let me ask, which girl is not pregnant with Spring?" Roya rescued them from prison. He also used extremely powerful abilities to defeat Kizaru. Even a 5,000-meter-long Poseidon is not enough to see in front of Roja. The most important thing is that her back is covered with the Phoenix Nirvana pattern that Luoya personally covered for her. She has seen this pattern in the room, and it can be said that she likes it very much. "I'm really shy." "Sister, what's wrong with you? Is it okay?" "Sister, your face looks so red." The two girls, Marigold and Sandersonia, had very strange expressions when they saw their sister's appearance. At this time, Roja felt that Hancock was too excited. At this moment, Roja saw a hazy black shadow in front of him. As it continued to get closer, the appearance of the island gradually appeared. The entire island has towering peaks, and in the middle of the island, 9 snake heads can be seen looking into the distance in different directions. Controlling the warship to slowly descend from the sky, Roja said to Hancock, "Hancock, we seem to have arrived at 9 Snake Island." Hearing Roja's words, Hancock suddenly came back from his shy and nervous mood. She looked at Roja, as if she could see Roja's eyes hidden underneath through Roja's cloak. "Royal, will we meet again in the future?" Hancock's eyes were full of reluctance for Roja. Roja obviously saw Hancock's attachment. Roja squatted down, looked at Hancock in front of him, and said seriously to Hancock, "Hancock, we will meet again." Hearing Roja's words, Hancock nodded heavily. "Sister." Hancock's 2 sisters, seeing Hancock being so reluctant, also came to Hancock's side. "I'm fine." Hancock took a deep breath, adjusted his mood, and then said to Roja, "Roya, let's go." Roja used the power of the spell to levitate himself and the 3 women and came to 9 Snake Island. When Roja stepped on the island, the electronic sound of the system suddenly sounded in Roja's mind. "Ding! Congratulations to host for successfully signing in. You have obtained the peak of Armed Domineering. Armed Domineering is the pass for the strong in the sea, and the peak of Armed Domineering is a power that countless people pursue but cannot obtain." Roja felt as if a warm current was flowing through his body. A very violent force was born in his body. However, this power may require a certain period of practice before it can be fully mastered. Just when the electronic sound of the system fell, dozens of arrows flew out of the jungle instantly. There is an armed and domineering aura attached to it. In this late night, it is even harder to detect. The arrow roared out, tearing the air apart. Wherever the arrow passed, you could even see the waves formed by the rolling air, which showed how fast the arrow was and how powerful it was. Roja did not expect that they would receive such a warm welcome ceremony the moment they landed on the island. Hancock also reacted. He touched his lips lightly with his fingers and transformed into a pink heart-shaped substance as big as a fist. Then he pulled it back like a bow and arrow, and shot hundreds of very small arrows. This is the first ability that Hancock developed under Roya's guidance in a few days. These hundreds of tiny arrows hit the armed arrows, causing some petrification. Although it was slightly petrified, it also made these arrows unstable and shot directly on the ground not far in front of Roja, making small craters. At this time, Hancock already had some queenly temperament. The small body stood in front of Roya and shouted to the trees and jungle, "I am Boya Hancock. I will not allow you to hurt Roya." The island of 9 Snake Island is not big, and everyone on it knows the name. So when they heard Boya Hancock's name, they immediately came out of the jungle. Hancock looked at the person he remembered reappearing in front of him. Not only was he not moved, but he was also filled with anger. "Why are you attacking us?" The current emperor of 9 Snake Island looked at Hancock, and then looked at Roja behind him. "Because there is someone suspicious." When Roya heard her words, he said calmly, "I just sent them back to 9 Snakes Island, so—" Before Roja could finish speaking, the current emperor of 9 Snakes Island heard Roja's voice. He immediately drew his bow and arrow and said without mercy, "Are you a man? Since you dare to step onto the land of 9 Snakes Island, just die. Men are not allowed to enter the 9 Snake Island. Anyone who enters will be killed without mercy." Following the order from the emperor of 9 Snake Island, everyone drew their bows and shot towards Roja. Roja sighed. He already roughly knew what was going on. Originally planning to send Hancock and others to the island, Roja left the 9 Snakes Island. He never imagined that such a thing would happen. I have to say that the people of Jioshi Island are really fierce and everyone is a soldier. Facing another wave of arrows, Hancock wanted to block it for Roja, but Roja held his shoulders and stopped him. "Hancock, leave this place to me." After the words fell, Luoya stretched out his hand and tapped lightly in the air. Duan calm. A defensive wall that seemed to be made of air appeared in front of Roja out of thin air. Boom, boom, boom. The arrows with armed colors shot on it, except for causing some noise, did not cause even a little bit of damage. Just when the Emperor of Nine Snake Island was about to launch another attack, a voice came from a distance. Stop. Just heard a voice in the distance. Then a black shadow came in front of Roja and stopped the current Emperor of Nine Snake Island. Grandma Guloliosa? The current Emperor of Nine Snakes Island looked at Guloliosa in front of him in disbelief. Guloliosa was the former Emperor of Amazon Lily. Although he has abdicated now, in terms of influence, he far exceeds the current Emperor. Only the future Hancock can beat Groliosa. Groliosa looked at the Emperor of Nine Snakes Island and said, "You can't take action against this man." When Roja saw this scene, his eyes hidden under the cloak narrowed slightly. He just looked at everything in front of him quietly. The current Emperor of Nine Snake Island. But Grandma Guloliosa, this person is a man. Nine Snake Island prohibits any man from setting foot on this land. Groliosa. It was he who saved our people on Nine Snakes Island. The current Emperor. But even if this is the case, according to the ancestral teachings, a man will never get out alive. Hearing such decisive words from the current Emperor, Hancock felt a little uneasy and pulled on Roja's sleeve. At this time, Guloliosa said again, "What if I say that this man killed the legendary deep-sea snake on Nine Snake Island?" According to the ancestral teachings, anyone who kills the deep-sea snake must be treated with courtesy. Treat me as a distinguished guest, regardless of male or female. As Guloliosa's words fell, all the Nine Snake Island warriors present, as well as the current Emperor, were all shocked. How is it possible that that terrifying snake-like Poseidon was actually killed by the man in front of me? This is too exaggerated. It's a Poseidon class of several thousand meters. Great, the ancestors' revenge has finally been avenged. The surrounding Nine Snake Island warriors were all shocked, but after receiving the news, they were all very happy. The current Emperor confirmed to Guloliosa. The deep-sea snake was really killed by this person? Deep-sea snakes have always been the nightmare of the emperors of Nine Snakes Island. Because Jiushi Island has been a pirate country since its creation and needs to go to sea to obtain supplies. But as long as you go to sea, there are certain risks. The biggest risk is the presence of deep-sea snakes. Many emperors never came back because of the existence of this terrifying Poseidon class. Because the lifespan of this Poseidon is too long, I can only watch helplessly as the strength and size of this Poseidon continue to increase. They can't do anything at all. Therefore, the sixth Emperor of Nine Snake Island left such a rule: anyone who kills a deep-sea snake must be treated with courtesy and treated as a guest of honor, regardless of gender. Since then, this rule has been passed down and has become an ancestral motto. After Roja heard Guloliosa's words, he looked at Hancock beside him and said to Hancock, "Hancock, is it possible that you only know that the deep-sea snake is a legendary creature on Nine Snakes Island, but don't you know this ancestral precept?" Hancock nodded shyly when he heard Roya's words. If she knew, she would tell it immediately. And those things just now will not happen. After receiving confirmation from Guloliosa, the current Emperor of Nine Snake Island came to Roja and said to Roja, "I'm sorry I was rude, and I invite you to attend our palace banquet." Hearing her words, Roja shook his head and said calmly, "As I said before, I just sent them back to this island. If you want to thank me, treat them well." At this time, Guloliosa took over the words of the current Emperor and said, "Don't worry. We will definitely devote all our efforts on the island to train them well. Nine Snakes Island respects the strong." Just now, Groliosa saw Hancock's ability. If he could cultivate it, Groliosa even felt that Hancock would become the most powerful emperor since the founding of Nine Snakes Island. Of course, the one that attracted the most attention to Groliosa was the relationship between Hancock and Roya. She has been traveling on the sea, but what she has heard recently has always been about this mysterious man. So she went out of her way to investigate this person. But as the investigation continued to deepen, Guloliosa discovered that Roya seemed to appear out of thin air, and his origins were extremely mysterious. That's why Guloliosa promised to use all the resources on the island in front of Roja to make Hancock work hard to become stronger. Roja was very satisfied with Guloliosa's answer. Hancock, even if I am no longer here, you must work hard to train your abilities. Do you understand? Hancock nodded vigorously, then looked at Roya and said to Roja, Roya, if I become the emperor, I will definitely make you my queen. Seeing Hancock look so serious, Roya laughed out loud. This is the first time he has smiled so happily since he came to this world. You are the queen. After speaking, Roja was stunned for a moment. Does this sentence mean that he wants Hancock to become his queen? When he reacted, he immediately flicked Hancock's little head. You are really naughty. Roja added, Hancock, let's meet again on the sea in the future. Roja turned around and walked towards the warship. The night wind blows slowly, and the jungle makes a Sasha sound. The moon and stars are sparse, reflecting the sparkling waves on the sea. Hancock looked at Roya's retreating figure, and tears fell from the corners of his eyes no longer. Royal, from now on. Can I go find you? When Roja heard Hancock's words, he stopped and replied, Well, of course. Although Roja's voice was very soft, it had a very heavy power in Hancock's heart. Roya, then you must wait for me, wait for the day when I go to find you. When Hancock said this, he was already crying a little. Roja did not continue talking, but waved his hand, activated his talisman power, and returned to the warship. Because he knew that if he continued to stay, Hancock would be even more reluctant to leave. Hancock watched Roja leave in front of him, and made up his mind she must work hard to train her abilities, and then strive to reach the fruit awakening state mentioned by Roja earlier. It has been 1 day since I left Nine Snake Island. Roja has left the windless sea area. In the warship's room, Roja took out the fruit he had obtained before from the system space, the fantasy fruit. This fruit can create a phantom. The phantom has certain strength and can be used for camouflage, combat, and group battles. It is a fruit that can be used in all aspects. And now, Roja decided to eat this fruit. Paramecia phantom fruit looks extremely mysterious. After playing with the fantasy fruit for a while, Roja ate it directly. I don't know if it's because, without any side effects, this fruit has no taste at all. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. In the blink of an eye, a minute passed, and Roja did not feel any strange changes in his body. Is it possible that it has no effect? Just when this idea was born in Roja's mind, I saw a figure appearing in front of Roja. This figure is exactly the image under Roya's cloak. Seeing this scene, Roja knew that the fantasy fruit had taken effect. Roja looked at the phantom man in front of him who looked the same as himself, and tried it himself. The phantom is very real and feels solid to the touch. After all, it has a small amount of strength. This strength will become more powerful in the continuous development process. Armed colors covered his arms, and Roja smashed the phantom in front of him without hesitation. The endurance is also good. As long as the damage is not fatal, it should not cause the phantom to dissipate. Luoya murmured to himself and said, Then what about this? As Roja's words fell, hundreds of phantoms appeared on the entire warship. These phantoms are all conceived based on Roja's imagination. The images include Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Red Hair, and others. They are all famous figures on the sea. If other people or Marines saw it, they would definitely be scared to death, thinking that there was some terrible conspiracy between them. But Roja frowned slightly as he looked at the hundreds of phantoms in front of him. The bodies of these phantom people are very illusory, and each phantom looks very weak. I think it's because that part of the power is averaged out. Roja waved his hand casually, and these phantoms disappeared immediately. On the warship, Roja continued to experiment with various abilities. He discovered that the phantom fruit did little to improve his own combat effectiveness. But the auxiliary effect is terrifyingly strong, and it can also create illusions to interfere with opponents. As the system says, this is a very top fruit. Although it is in terms of assistance, as the saying goes, there are no garbage fruits, only garbage users. Luoya feels that with his development, he will definitely be able to develop more powerful abilities in the near future. The corners of Roha's mouth curled up slightly. In the following time, he has been frantically developing the fruit's abilities and naming these moves. Until, the landline phone on the warship rang. Brumaru, burubru. Roha followed the sound and came to the cockpit of the warship. After thinking for a moment, Roha answered the phone. Attention all units. Attention all units. The Marine Fando Promotion Conference has begun. We must ensure that the conference is carried out safely. Anyone who sees pirates or other suspicious traces on warships outside, no matter how big or small, must report them. Repeat, Malin Fando. Roha hung up the phone, and he only heard the electronic sound of the system in his mind. Ding! Release the check-in task. Marine Headquarters Marin Fando. Reward, Marine 6 Style Peak. Time, 7 days. According to the movement speed of the warship, it will take less than 7 days to arrive. But he definitely couldn't sign in so arrogantly. Since it is a promotion conference, there will definitely be a lot of high-level combatants. If he really wants to sign in like this, he will definitely be targeted miserably. If you are not careful, you may even be left there. This is not the result Roha wants. However, Roha thought of a pretty good idea. As a result, Roha did not head towards Malin Fando immediately in the next few days. Instead, he started hunting pirates on the sea and practiced his abilities by the way. The lowest bounty for any pirate targeted by Roya reaches hundreds of millions of belly. Even within these few days, news of a mysterious bounty hunter broke out on the sea. This news is about Roha. The promotion conference is a grand event for Marines reform and development. Because Cyborg Fleet Admiral was promoted to Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Sengoku took over Fleet Admiral's position, and other general positions were vacant. Many alternate generals began to take turns to challenge, leaving a large number of positions vacant. This is undoubtedly an opportunity to take a step closer. Countless people began to gear up and wanted to participate in this grand event. A small wooden boat sailed on the sea. Roha watched Malin Fando getting closer and closer in front of him, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. The sun was shining brightly, hitting Roha's face, making Roha look very gentle. Yes, Roha took off his cloak and sailed towards Malin Fando openly. Ships ahead, please stop sailing. Ships ahead, please stop sailing. Before it was completely close to marine land, Roya's wooden boat was intercepted by the cruising marine soldiers. Who are you and why do you come to Malin Fando? A marine with the rank of captain asked Roha after the warship approached. I heard that marine is holding a promotion conference. I also want to participate to see what my strength is and what position I can sit in. After hearing Roha's words, the marine captain frowned. The promotion conference is not open to the public. Besides, how strong do you think you are, and you want to see what position you can hold with your own strength? If you asked me, you are nothing more than cannon fodder. After hearing what the marine captain said, Roha was not angry and directly took the sack from behind him. Then what if I take these as registration fees? At this time, the marine captain felt a little disgusted with Roha in front of him. Do you think I am a bribe taker? I will never. What is this? Before the marine captain finished speaking, he only saw Roya taking out a sack and pouring out a human head. These are pirates who commit crimes on the sea. The bounty for each pirate is no less than 100 million belly. Do you think I can use this as the registration fee? Roha's tone was very calm, but it set off a huge wave in the marine captain's heart. Marine captain swallowed subconsciously. Looking at the heads, marine captain recognized many familiar faces. Jack Scythe, the bounty is 170 million. Captain Fireworks, the bounty is 320 million. This is the billion-dollar pirate. The head on the neck of every, the user of the strange power fruit. The marine captain felt that his eyes were hallucinating. Otherwise, why would those big pirates galloping crazily on the sea appear in front of me? At this time, the marine captain was already panicking. How could this be cannon fodder? If Luya is all cannon fodder, then who are you? Wait a minute, I'll go up and report it to the superior. The Marine captain was already panicking. He was just a little captain, and he had never seen such a scene before. He was already a little embarrassed to speak, because what happened in front of him was too shocking to him. The Marine captain returned to the cockpit of the warship and reported to his superiors using the landline phone. Roja just stood between the two warships. It seemed that he didn't pay attention to the shocked stares around him. There was just a very gentle smile on his face, which made people feel that the person in front of him was a very gentle person. But what shocked them was this. Although he looks so gentle, he can easily kill 1 billion pirates. This is something they never expected. Marine's movements were still very fast. As the Marine captain reported the matter, it was quickly reported to Sengoku. Warring States had just assumed the position of Fleet Admiral at this time. This was the first grand event he personally arranged, and it was also regarded as the first important thing for the new official to take office. This first fire is to show the power of Marine to the whole world. Recently, due to the appearance of that mysterious man on the sea, he stole food from Marine and the world government, destroyed Buster Call with another sword, and caused trouble in the holy land of Ryujin. All these things have made Marine lose face. Many people even think that Marine is now a strong but weak force on the outside and on the verge of collapse. In order to remedy this situation, the Warring States period held this grand gathering for Marines. As long as you are strong, you can hold an important position. It is possible to go directly from a Marine to a general. Warring States was also very surprised when he heard that among the heads, there were actually the heads of the billionaire pirate Avery. Because when he was serving as Marine General, he also hunted down Avery. Warring States knew that in Avery's body with terrifying power, there was also a cunning character. Without super strength or rigorous planning, it would be absolutely impossible to kill Avery. Therefore, the Warring States period already had some interest in Roja at this time. Ever since, the Warring States period agreed to let Roja use these heads as registration fees to participate in this promotion conference. Sir Fleet Admiral, we have agreed to your participation. Please board the warship. We need to register your information. Marine Fleet Admiral walked out of the cockpit and said to Roja. At this time, his attitude towards Roja had undergone earth-shaking changes. The contempt in his eyes has long since disappeared, leaving only respect and fear. Because this was the phone call that Sengoku called him personally, it shows that Sengoku also attaches great importance to Roja. And his attitude towards Roja made Marine Captain feel very panic at this time. However, what he didn't know was that Roja never paid attention to him from beginning to end. After registering his information, Roya took the Marine Captain's warship and set foot on the land of Marinefando. When Roja stepped on Marinefando, the system's electronic sound sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for successfully signing in. You will get Peak 6th Form of Marine. 6th Form of Marine is a physical skill, including shave, iron block, paper painting, moonwalk, lawn kick, and finger gun. These 6 moves are physical skills that can surpass the limits of human physical ability, are extremely powerful. Hearing the electronic sound of the system, the corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly. This smile immediately made many female soldiers who were paying attention to Roja feel their hearts tremble. Wow, this is so handsome. This face looks so unfamiliar. But it's so gentle. Ignoring the whispers around him, Roja followed the Marine Captain to his temporary residence. Sir, the promotion conference will officially start tomorrow, and the competition will not start until tomorrow, so I will ask you to stay here today and make do with it. Depending on the position you will be promoted to, different rooms will be arranged for you later. The Marine Captain retired after speaking, leaving only Roya alone in the room. Arriving in front of the window, Roja looked at the building not far away, standing in the middle of Marineland, and guessed in his mind, Warring States office should also be a relatively famous place. When there is a chance, see if he can punch in and get extra award. At the same time, Warring States is also here to investigate the news of Roja. According to the information that Roja just filled in, Roja was born on the island of Vermio, the same island where the Golden Lion massacred the village. Because I was traveling outside, I was not in Vermal at that time. After the Golden Lion massacred the village, he became extremely disgusted with pirates, so he wanted to join Marine. Nowadays, Vermalo's village has ceased to exist in name only. There is no proof of death at all. Roja can say whatever he wants. Plus Roja had killed so many pirates before, Sengoku didn't suspect anything. I'm just looking forward to what kind of surprise Roja will bring him. There is obviously the Warring States period's own plan in this. As dusk approached, Roja stayed in the room for a while and then walked out. Walking in Marineland, Roja felt an atmosphere completely different from that on the sea. Unknowingly, Roja came to the training ground. This training ground seemed different from those of soldiers. There were only a few people training. Among them, the one who attracted Roja the most was a blonde woman who was over 1.75 meters tall. This blonde woman wears glasses and is constantly practicing the 6 postures here. At this time, Luoya's 6 moves have reached their peak, and he can naturally see what level this girl's strength is. Roya's gaze obviously attracted the girl's attention. Unreasonable guy, where is your uniform? Why don't you wear your uniform in Marineland? The girl walked slowly towards Roja, and while speaking to Roja, she also dragged her glasses with her hand. When Roja heard the words unreasonable guy, he was even more sure of the identity of the girl in front of him. If nothing else, this girl should be one of the future CP9's Calipha. A woman with the catchphrase of, "You are harassing," an unreasonable guy. I came here to participate in the promotion meeting, and I just arrived at Malinfando today. Hearing Roja's words, Calipha raised his eyebrows. According to my understanding, the promotion conference is not open to the public, so you are lying. As Calipha finished speaking, he saw his long legs kicking directly towards Roja. Looking at the high heels that were at least 5 centimeters, the corner of Roja's mouth twitched. He just looked familiar to this person, so why did he start fighting? Roya stretched out his hand, opened his palm, and easily held Calipha's ankle, resisting Calipha's attack. Calipha's pretty face turned red. Hey, put it down, you are harassing me! Roja shrugged and said, As you wish. As Roja's words fell, Roja let go of his hand. But he didn't expect that the moment he let go of his hand, Calipha used, shaving, to get behind Luoya, stretched out his fingers, and stabbed Luoya mercilessly. Let you touch me again! Point the gun! Roja sighed. He finally knew how bad this girl's temper was. With a slight tilt of his head, Roja dodged Calipha's attack. At the same time, a phantom identical to Roja appeared behind Calipha and imprisoned Calipha directly. Calipha's pupils shrank suddenly, and she reacted instantly, saying in shock, You are a person with abilities! You don't even know the information about your opponent, so you just take action. You are really stupid. When Calipha heard Roja's words, the anger in her chest suddenly burned. Then do you know what I am capable of? Golden bubble! A large number of bubbles instantly emerged from Calipha's hands, and everything touched by these bubbles became extremely smooth. Calipha used this to slip out directly from the confinement of Roya's phantom. At the moment of breaking free from the confinement, Calipha first kicked the phantom to pieces with his feet, and then quickly touched the ground with his feet. The powerful reaction force instantly drove Calipha's body to behind Roja. You're too careless! Point the gun! The figure flickered, and Calipha stabbed out his index finger. This time the finger gun was even more powerful than before. At this time, Calipha has forgotten that this is just a training ground. And she just took the opportunity to test her own strength. Now she used her full strength to stab Roja in the back of the head. Pfft! The moment his index finger pierced the back of Roya's head, Calipha woke up. Her pupils shrank suddenly. The anger in his heart seemed to be extinguished by a basin of cold water. How could it be? Calipha subconsciously retracted her finger and looked at the scene in front of her in disbelief. She thought Roja would react. After all, his reaction just now was so fast. Plop! Roja fell to the ground. His whole body was like a puddle of soft mud. It seems that every moment, it is explained that Roja died because of Khalifa. At this time, more and more people noticed this scene, and gradually people came over. Khalifa quickly came to Roya and said to Roya, Hey, wake up quickly, don't scare me, I really didn't mean it, wake up quickly. Kneeling next to Roja, big tears fell from the corners of Khalifa's eyes. What the hell happened? It seems Khalifa killed someone. You killed someone? You accidentally killed someone on the training ground? That seems to be the case, but why do I feel weird? Weird? What's weird? Why didn't that man shed any blood after being shot through the back of his head with a gun? The people watching were whispering there. Occasionally, some loud sounds reached Khalifa's ears. This made Khalifa, who was breaking down and crying bitterly, momentarily stunned. No bleeding? After hearing this, Khalifa looked at the back of Roja's head. At this moment, Roja, who was lying on the ground, suddenly shattered. Just like the phantom that Khalifa kicked to pieces just now. As the Rojas on the ground dissipated into the air, 3 more Rojas appeared next to Khalifa. The 3 Rojas surrounded Khalifa, leaving no chance for her to use her abilities. Everyone around the training ground was completely confused at this time. Is this a fruit ability? Looks like it is. What kind of fruit power is this? It looks really strong. These 3 should not be the main body. Where is the main body? Shave! At this time, Roja directly used shaving to reach the top of a training wooden man. 5-turn phantom. The so-called 5th turn phantom is the name Luoya gave to this move. The 5th turn is the number of phantoms that are separated when the ability is activated. Khalifa knelt on the ground, looked up at Roja, and bit her lower lip tightly. She looked at Roja, gritted her silver teeth, and asked, When did you separate the phantom? At the beginning of the battle. Does that mean I was being teased by you from the very beginning of the battle? Roya smiled and said nothing, just lifted the phantom and said to Khalifa, Don't be so impulsive next time. I am here to participate in the promotion conference. Warring States Fleet Admiral can testify to this. You said before that it was your first time in Marineland, but why did you use the shaving in the 6 marine styles? Khalifa keenly captured the skill of Roja when he came to the wooden man just now. I just saw you doing it here, so I know how to do it. As Roja's words fell, everyone who heard these words froze in place. You'll know it after just one look? This talent is too terrifying. This is the 6th form. Many people can't even get started. Many people think that Luoya is bragging here. But what Luoya just used was indeed shaving. In other words, Roja's talent is really that powerful. Khalifa slowly stood up from the ground, her beautiful eyes hidden under her glasses staring closely at Roja. It was as if he wanted to remember Roja's face in his heart. I will never let you go. I hope you won't lose too quickly tomorrow. After saying this, Khalifa left the crowd. She was really embarrassed and continued to stay here. After all, she was the one who started this fight and was teased by Luoya like this. In addition, she was a girl, so she could be said to have a grudge against Luoya. Looking at Khalifa's leaving figure, Roja did not stay long. After jumping off the wooden man, he planned to go back to sleep. As for Khalifa changing her habits and becoming less bad-tempered in the future, that is not something Roja cares about. But just as he was about to walk out of the crowd, a man wearing a dark red suit, a justice, cape on his back, and a military cap came to Roja. Roya is very familiar with this person. The visitor is none other than Akainu. Why don't you wear uniforms in the Marine headquarters? Akainu was full of seriousness and said sternly to Roja, I'm here to participate in the promotion meeting. It's my first time here. Warring States Fleet Admiral should know. It turns out that the person Fleet Admiral is talking about is you. Akainu added. I also saw the battle just now. If you want to win with the fruit ability just now and the 6 moves you just learned, there is absolutely no hope. I don't know why Fleet Admiral would let someone as weak as you come in to participate in this promotion conference. After saying these words, Akainu looked past Roja without even looking at him. He just said, Don't let me meet you in the first battle, Otherwise I will let you know what the power of justice is. Roja didn't take Akainu's words into his heart at all. After all, Akainu is just a defeated general. What would Akainu think if he knew that the person he looked down on just now was the mysterious man who defeated him with one move? Thinking of this, Roja flipped up his black hair and then returned to his room. In a blink of an eye, it was the first day of the promotion meeting. Luoya slept well yesterday. When he walked out of the room, he saw that the main training ground was already full of people. "Hey, don't you know where to stand?" Khalifa's voice came from behind Roja. Roja looked at Khalifa. Today's Khalifa gave Roja a slightly different feeling. But Luoya couldn't tell for a moment, where exactly is this change? "Well, they only arranged a place for me and didn't tell me anything else." "Then stand next to me, but don't think too much. I will never forget the trick you played on me yesterday. If there is a chance, I will definitely let you know how powerful I am." However, when Khalifa said these words, for some reason, her eyes were a little wandering. When Roya followed Khalifa and came to the front of a team. Then I saw Sengoku and Garp standing at the top of Marinavando, one behind the other. They looked at these Marines condescendingly, and after talking a lot of useless nonsense, they finally announced the start of the promotion meeting. When Warring States turned to leave, he glanced at Roja below. Because Roya was the only one not wearing a Marine uniform, he looked extremely conspicuous. Garp noticed Sengoku's eyes, and following his eyes, he also saw Roya standing next to Khalifa. Garp joked, "It's great to be young. This young man is so handsome, no wonder he is so popular with girls." Warring States looked expressionless and said to Garp, "Garp, what level do you think this guy can reach?" "Yesterday afternoon, I also saw the competition between him and Khalifa. Although the fruit's ability is very strange, it does not improve the combat effectiveness much. It should be at the level of a lieutenant general at most." Warring States nodded, then shook his head and said, "I think he can win the general." After hearing what Sengoku said, Garp subconsciously repeated it, and then said in shock, "What? General? You are too optimistic about him. Do you want to bet? If you lose, you will never be able to steal my senbei again. And you can't be lazy." After Garp thought for a moment, he said, "Bet, but if you lose, your senbei will be mine from now on. Make a deal." When Warring States saw Garp agreeing, the corners of his mouth inadvertently raised. But Garp didn't know that among the heads of Roya, there was the head of every with the strange power fruit ability. This shows that Roja must have other, very powerful means. In addition, Warring States also took a fancy to Roja's talent. If possible, he wanted to absorb Roja into the Dove faction. The Dove faction is a faction in Marine. Correspondingly, there are the Hawk faction headed by Akainu and the Neutral faction headed by Kizaru, commonly known as the Salted Fish faction. As the name suggests, the Dove faction is relatively gentle, and its methods are not too iron-blooded. Everyone has their own justice in their hearts. For the Hawk, Marine means justice, and Pirate means evil, and they will do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. The Neutral faction does not touch both sides, just do whatever is available, and salary is king. Of course, there are also some individual differences. Roja got his order to participate in the battle on the main training ground. He had a bye, which meant that he could directly enter the next round without any fighting. Khalifa next to him saw this scene and said with a smile, "You're lucky, but that's fine. The later you lose, the better. It's because the later I lose, the stronger I am. Then if you were defeated by me before, it won't be so ugly, right?" Seeing Roja speaking out her thoughts without hesitation, Khalifa felt ashamed and angry. "You look so gentle and handsome, why do you have such a venomous tongue?" I'll never talk to you again," Khalifa said, and walked to the side without looking back, showing an expression that said, "Come here quickly to comfort me." However, Roya did not continue to talk to Khalifa, but continued to go back to sleep. This made Khalifa even more angry. In the following days Roja had a bye, which made Roja feel that there was a hand controlling everything from behind. However, Luoya didn't care about this, but was happy and relaxed. Every day he just sleeps or watches other people compete, which he enjoys. Finally, on the 6th day of his arrival in Marine Land, Roja faced his first opponent, a captain named Smoker. There was a sea of people outside the training ground. Nowadays, many Marine soldiers are aware of Roja's existence. But many of them have only heard of it, and have never seen Roja's battle. So this time, a lot of soldiers came to watch, and they circled 3 times inside and 3 times outside, and the crowd was so crowded. Khalifa came over from nowhere at this time. He reminded Roja. Roja, Smoker is a user with the Logia fruit smoke fruit ability. He has been winning for 6 days in a row and is very powerful. He kindly reminded Roja that it would be fine if Roja didn't thank him, and his reaction was so bland, which made Khalifa feel a little uncomfortable. Forget it if you don't believe it. I want to see how you will be defeated by Smoker. Of course, she only talked about it verbally. Unconsciously, even Khalifa herself didn't know it, but she was paying more and more attention to Roja's every move. In fact, even Roja himself did not expect that Smoker would actually become his first opponent in Malinfando. Smoker has been winning for 6 days in a row. With the ability of the smoke fruit, Smoker can be said to be a leader at the same level. But is this really useful for Roja? Roja slowly walked to the training ground. He looked at the Smoker in front of him, who was holding 10 pieces of sea tower stone, holding a cigar in his mouth, and wearing a white slicked back hair, and said lightly, "Please give me some advice. Please give me more advice." At this time, the voice of Smoker's friend, Tina, cheering for Smoker could be heard in the training ground. "Tina is here to cheer you on, don't lose." Following the voice, Roja looked towards the pink-haired girl, but at this moment, Smoker turned into smoke and rushed towards Roja. Being distracted during battle is a big no-no. After the words fell, Smoker raised his hands high and stabbed Roja with his 10 hands made of sea stone. Upon seeing this, Khalifa glared at Tina fiercely, and then quickly reminded, "Roja, Smoker's weapons are made of sea stone, so be sure not to be touched." However, Khalifa's words were still a step too late. Smoker had already waved 10 hands and hit Roja hard. Bang! Roja was whipped away by Smoker, and his figure immediately disappeared in the air. When Smoker saw this scene, he already knew that he had been fooled. With a fairly good fighting sense, Smoker reminded Smoker and stabbed his 10 hands behind him. Bang! Another phantom was poked by Smoker. But before Smoker could breathe a sigh of relief, Tina reminded him. "Smoker, head on! Armed color domineering attachment." Roja's phantom fell from the sky, his fist wrapped in armed color, and he hit Smoker hard. This makes Smoker's elemental and completely ineffective. Although Phantom's weapon color has only reached the intermediate level, it is enough to deal with Smoker. This is not over yet, and Smoker has not yet recovered from his dizziness. Another phantom appeared behind Smoker, with the same armed domineering energy attached to it, and punched Smoker on the back. Smoker stumbled and fell forward. Another phantom of Roja appeared in front of Smoker, armed with domineering energy attached to his knees, and then hit Smoker's abdomen hard. Puff! Smoker felt a stream of blood gushing out of his mouth. The time for Roja's attack has not yet reached 1 second. The phantom suddenly shattered, revealing Roja's figure. He came to Smoker, looked down at Smoker who was half kneeling in front of him, and said softly, "You lost." Everyone on the training ground was stunned, looking at the scene in front of them. This scene was far beyond their imagination. "Smoker is a Logia fruit user. You didn't even have time to use your ability, so you lost like this? This is too strong. The strength of this phantom is too strong. It's so unpredictable that it's impossible to guard against it." The soldiers around were whispering to each other. Tina obviously couldn't believe the scene before her. Smoker actually lost like this. How is this possible? Thinking of this, Tina looked at Roja in disbelief, as if she wanted to imprint Roja's appearance in her heart. When Khalifa saw this scene, she immediately laughed out loud and said, "You see, Roja is very powerful." As if showing off to Tina, Khalifa raised an eyebrow at Tina. Even Khalifa herself doesn't know why she is so happy. It was only then that the surrounding soldiers reacted from the shock. They immediately broke into deafening shouts. Roa! 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 These soldiers were shouting Roha's name crazily, and even the whole of Malanvando could hear it clearly. In another training ground, Akainu defeated Lieutenant General Dugman in front of him. Following the voice and looking towards Roha's training ground, Akainu said coldly with a serious face, "Oh, clown, he's just a captain. Wait until you meet me and see if you can do it again. You won't scream so happily." In the training ground, Roya stretched out his hand and said to Smoker, "Are you okay?" Smoker looked at Roha and grinned. "It's okay, it's just that I'm too weak. I will definitely win next time. Let's work hard together." Luya smiled faintly, and this smile immediately made the soldiers around him shout. However, for some reason, Khalifa felt a little sad at this time. If you can show such a smile to others, why are you so cold to yourself? Khalifa bit her lip and kept thinking about this problem. Time passed quickly, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, Roha used the power of the illusory fruit to play tricks on his opponents again and again, making it impossible for the opponent to find which one was Roha's true body. I was confused every time and was easily defeated by Roha. His powerful strength, coupled with such a gentle smile, brought Roha great popularity. His popularity even surpassed that of the 3 major generals in Marine who were called monsters. In Sengoku's office, Garp sat next to Sengoku and kept eating senbei. There are more and more signs on Warring State's forehead. Garp, do you like eating my senbei so much? Yes, after all, if I lose, I won't be able to eat anymore. I must eat enough now. But why do I think that even if you lose the bet, you will still eat it? Ha 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 ha, Sengoku, you really know me, but do you really plan to arrange a competition between Akainu and Roya in the next game? You know, this is already a competition for the position of general? Garp, I know what you are thinking, but according to my observations during this period, Roha's character is most consistent with our Dove faction. Even if there is no way to absorb Roha into our Dove faction, it's better than Akainu taking the top position. Marine is not a monolith, and the faction fights inside are even more complex. The Warring States period now has 2 plans. The first plan was to extend an olive branch after Roha was defeated by Akainu and absorb Roha, an extremely talented person, into the Dove faction. The second plan is that if Roha can defeat Akainu, then they will reach an agreement and develop together, all for the sake of peace on the sea. Garp now naturally understands Sengoku's plan, but because of this, he is curious about why Sengoku believes so much that Roha will defeat Akainu. After the Warring States period drew up the list, he asked his subordinates to publish it. Anyone who sees this list is shocked. Hey, did you hear? Akainu and Roha are facing each other. True or not, Akainu actually faced off with Roha. This is still false and has been made public. I remember that Akainu seemed to have told Roha before that if he met Roha, he would make Roha look good. This does sound like what Akainu said. After all, Akainu is so tough. Compared to the gentle Roha, Akainu with his iron-blooded methods is really disgusting. In front of the competition list, Akainu looked at the content on it, fisted with his hands, and exuded a strong aura. Roya, don't lose too miserably tomorrow. Marine doesn't need someone to suddenly intervene. Then we have to wait until tomorrow, right? Roya happened to be next to Akainu and said to Akainu with a smile. Akainu snorted coldly, turned around and left directly from the list. Until this time. It was only then that Khalifa pulled Roya and said to Roya, Roya, you better surrender tomorrow. Surrender? Why? Roha looked at Khalifa aside. Because. Khalifa was a little shy, and after glancing at Roya, Khalifa said, Because I don't want you to get hurt. Akainu, this guy really won't show mercy. Except for Dogman, many people who fight against him. He was seriously injured and may not even be able to stand up for the rest of his life. Well, I understand, but surrendering is not my habit. Akainu is no match for me. Califa looked at Roja in front of her and held her hands tightly. I obviously care about you. Why don't you listen to your advice? I don't care about you anymore. With that said, Califa turned and left from the training ground. Looking at Califa's leaving figure, Roja's expression was a little strange. He didn't know why Califa had such mood swings. It was obvious that she was the first to take action not long ago. Without thinking about this matter for too long, Roja looked up at the top, Sengoku's office. He is now waiting to check in at Warring State's office after becoming a general. At the same time, he also wanted to experience what it would be like to become a general. On the other side, Califa came to the training ground in the corner. Because this training ground is very remote, few people come. Califa vented his resentment towards the wooden man like crazy. Bang! 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 Califa didn't seem to feel any pain at all, and punched it hard. You must know that these wooden figures are specially made and of high quality. Even if ordinary people swing them hard with a hammer, they will not leave any holes. It was such a wooden man, but in Califa's hands many cracks appeared. Califa, Tina came here to ask you something. A girl with pink hair came next to Califa. Califa knows the woman in front of her, a guy with a strange mouth habit. Tina, what do you want from me? Tina wants to ask you, what does Roja usually like? You don't care about Smoker, what do you care about Roya? Califa instantly became alert. Tina and Smoker are just friends who care about each other, and caring about Roja is because Tina wants to pursue Roja. Pursue Roja? Califa widened his eyes and looked at Tina in front of him in disbelief. Do you know what you are talking about? Roja doesn't even know you, and you say you want to pursue him? Tina nodded to Califa. Ever since Roja defeated Smoker, Tina has been paying attention to him. Whenever she sees his smile, Tina feels very happy. Isn't this love? Califa became even more angry when she heard Tina's words. Although you are so gentle towards others, why do you treat her so coldly? But thinking about Roja, she would feel even more uncomfortable if she was pursued by another woman. It was only then that Califa realized that Roja's figure had unknowingly entered her heart since then. So after thinking about this, Califa immediately said to Tina, Tina, I can tell you clearly that this is not love, and I also like Roja. You can never compete with me. When Tina heard Califa's words, she raised her eyebrows and said, Then let's compete fairly. Tina will never admit defeat. After saying that, Tina turned and left. Seeing Tina leaving, Califa felt that she should expand her advantages and not give Tina the slightest chance. As for the depression just now, Califa has completely forgotten it. Thinking of this, Califa punched the wooden man into pieces, and then walked towards Roya's room. According to the rules of the promotion conference, Roja has already reached the position of lieutenant general after achieving these winning streaks. So the place where he lives is also the lieutenant general's room. Arriving at Roya's room, Califa took a deep breath and tried hard to calm down her mood before she mustered up the courage and knocked gently on the door. The door was opened by Roya's phantom, and when it was opened, it dissipated into the air. I have to say that from a certain perspective, the fantasy fruit is really a lazy skill. Just let Phantom do everything. Walking into the room, Califa saw Roya looking out the window. He didn't know why, but when he saw Luya lost in thought, his heart suddenly felt sour. In Marineland it can be said that there is no one to chat with except himself. He must be very lonely. Before Califa could speak, she heard Roja say softly, Sit wherever you want, but I may not have anything to entertain you here. Califa heard what Roja said and shook her head quickly. No need, there is no need to entertain, I will come this time. Having said this, Califa bit her lips lightly, her face turning red for some unknown reason. Do you need help with something? Roja turned to look at Califa in front of him. I'm here to apologize, Roja. I was too impulsive and willful before. I'm really sorry. Also, please come on tomorrow. I will try my best to cheer you. I believe, Roja, that you will be able to defeat Akainu. Looking at Califa, who was so shy that she wanted to find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. The corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly unconsciously. The sun shines through the window into the room, making it warm and comfortable. Roja came to Khalifa's side, stretched out his right hand, gently pushed a few strands of Khalifa's hair behind her ears, smiled slightly, and said, "Don't worry, I won't let you down, Akaina is not me." Opponent. Khalifa felt the warmth in Roya's palm, and she could no longer hear clearly what he said next. Her eyes were filled with Roja's soft smile towards her. "You finally smiled at me." Khalifa was very excited and her tone rose a little. "Great, you finally smiled at me." With that said, Khalifa jumped directly into Roja's arms, leaning into Roja's arms, looking very happy. In Roja's arms, Khalifa looked up at Roja and said to Roja, "Roya, you will no longer be alone in Marine Land. I will be by your side." Kindness. This time, Khalifa did not dislike Roja's cold response. On the contrary, she was very happy, because this meant that Roja had accepted her. The next day, countless soldiers gathered in the training ground. Sengoku and Garp were present in person. Everyone is very excited, waiting here for the competition to begin. But as time went by, Roja's figure never appeared. Sengoku glanced at his watch. There are only 5 minutes left before the competition officially starts. If Roja doesn't come again, it will be equivalent to automatically giving up. Akainu stood on the training ground with his arms crossed, looking extremely arrogant. The surrounding soldiers were also somewhat unsure of what was going on now. Is it possible that Roja is afraid, so he doesn't dare to come? No, Roja is very strong. He should be able to fight Akainu. It looks really strong at first, but no matter how you look at it, Roja's fruit is a powerful auxiliary fruit, and it does little to improve your strength. According to what you said, Roja really doesn't dare to come. The soldiers around were whispering here. When Akainu heard these words, he felt even more disdain for Roja. He was just a clown, joining in the middle and trying to get the position of general. It is really ridiculous. At this time, there was a commotion in the crowd. Look! Look! Roya is here. Roja is really here. Royal is a real man. Roya and Khalifa crossed the crowd and came to the training ground. He didn't look at Akainu, but at Sengoku first. This was his first meeting with Warring States. Roja smiled and nodded towards Warring States. This made Warring States feel that Roja's emotional contagion ability was really too strong. Akainu frowned, turned to look at Sengoku next to him, and said to Sengoku, "Sir Fleet Admiral, can the competition begin?" The more famous Roja became, the unhappy Akainu became. Because this made Akainu feel that Marine's justice seemed to have been humiliated. How could Marine let Roja join in such a grand conference casually? This is Akainu, absolutely incomprehensible. Although Akainu was very dissatisfied with the practices of the Warring States period, he could not say anything because of class relations. He can only put his anger on Roja. Akainu looked into Roya's eyes as if he were looking at a dead person. Facing such a violent Akainu, Sengoku's eyes flashed with displeasure. It's just that this unpleasantness just passed away in a flash, and was only noticed by Luoya alone. Warring States looked at Roya and said, "Roya, are you ready?" "I'm ready." The corners of Roja's mouth raised, his eyes narrowed slightly, and the sun shone on Roja's face. Khalifa's heart trembled when she saw this scene. In that case, let the competition begin. As Warring States finished speaking, the entire training ground erupted in shouts. At the same time, Akainu took a step forward, lava rolled out of his right arm. Dark Hound. Akainu's arm quickly attacks Roja. Not only is the attack speed very fast, but the power is also extraordinary. When Roja saw this, his arm domineering energy attached to his arm, he also punched. Bang! There was a loud noise. In the eyes of everyone, Roja's arm was directly swallowed up by Akainu's Dark Hound. Then he hit his chest hard. Bang! The phantom dissipates. Khalifa breathed a sigh of relief when he saw this scene in front of him. Akainu's face remained unchanged, but he said in a deep voice, "Your strength is too weak, and there are so many changes back and forth. It's really too stale." As soon as he finished speaking, Akainu turned around suddenly, carrying the billowing magma and smashing it behind him. Bang! Another phantom shattered. Akainu grinned. There are still 3 phantoms left. Sure enough, as Akainu finished speaking, 3 phantoms suddenly appeared in front of him and attacked Akainu. Big fire breathing. Facing the attack of 3 phantoms, Akainu first turned his arm into a huge lava fist made of lava, and then simulated the impact of a volcanic eruption to launch the fist, which was powerful enough to knock down a large iceberg dozens of times larger than the giant's, shattered and evaporated in an instant. Just such a blow easily shattered Roha's phantom. The 5th turn phantom completely dissipated. Roha's figure was also revealed. The people watching around were completely confused at this time. It all happened so fast. It's almost over before they can react. Akainu is too strong. It is worthy of being said to be one of the 3 monsters of marine. With this kind of strength, only Garp, Sengoku, and the other 2 generals can suppress it. After all, Roha still doesn't have the strength to be a general. No wonder Akainu looks down on Roha. It turns out that his strength really can't keep up. Akainu heard the words around him and looked at Roha with contempt. Weak people cannot survive on the sea, let alone exercise justice. You are too weak. Oh, really? Is that really what you think? Roha's expression did not change. Even after Akainu had dispersed all the 5th turn phantoms, Roha was not nervous at all. There was still a big smile on his face. Seeing Roha's expression, the anger in Akainu's heart suddenly ignited. I can only express my words quickly. Go to hell, dog bites Gurin. Akainu punched out, and his magma-formed arms suddenly turned into the shape of a dog's head, burning the surrounding air. The air became hot and dry in an instant, as if all the moisture had been evaporated by Akainu's fist. Mixed with the overwhelming momentum, he smashed towards Roha. The surrounding soldiers subconsciously took a few steps back, for fear of being involved. Isn't Roha scared out of his wits? Why doesn't he move? You're not really scared, are you? If this hits, it will probably be seriously injured, or die directly. Sengoku and Garp, who were standing not far away, also felt something was wrong at this time. Garp said next to him, Warring States, why don't you let me stop this competition? After all, I like this boy Roha. I really need to train hard. With his talent, he will be able to achieve it sooner or later. He was a powerful general. It's a pity that he's dead now. Roya was not seriously injured and did not surrender. We just need to keep watching. I don't know when there was a little cold sweat on Warring State's forehead. It can be seen that Sengoku is also nervous for Roha. The dog's head made of rolling magma continued to enlarge in Roha's eyes. At the critical moment, Luoya smiled and saw. I saw Roha's arm, wrapped with a weapon-colored domineering force as black as ink. The thick and domineering armed color is tattooed on Roha's arm like a pattern. The pupils of Warring States and Garp shrank suddenly, and they subconsciously said, This is... I haven't waited for them to say anything yet. There was an explosion in the training ground. The thunder-like sound seemed to ring directly in their ears, making them tremble with fear. They only saw Roha's fist resting on the rolling lava. Different from the scene just now. The scorching heat could not corrode Roha's arm at all. The lava was completely blocked by the arm domineering force that was as black as ink. How is it possible? How powerful is this arm domineering force that can withstand my magma? Sengoku and Garp swallowed subconsciously. This is the peak of arm domineering. But how is this possible? How could Luoya, who is only so young now, have tempered his weapons so powerfully? I haven't waited for them to figure this out. In the training ground, Roha said calmly to Akainu. Akainu, you said I am weak, can you withstand my attack? As Roha's words fell, Akainu felt that the atmosphere in the air suddenly changed. The coercion, like a terrifying beast, pressed directly on his body. Shave! Roha teleported behind Akainu, and the peak physical skills of the 6 styles were revealed at this time, so that Akainu did not react at all. Roya's arms were wrapped with a thick aura of arm domineering, and he stretched them up and down at the same time, gently pressing against Akainu's back. At this time, apart from the gentle breeze, there was only Luoya's faint voice in the training ground. The highest secret of the 6 styles 6 kings spear change. Boom! I saw Roha's arm wrapped in arm-domineering energy, and a terrifying shock wave was immediately sent out. With the explosion of the shock wave, Roha's hands exploded with force and hit Akainu directly in the back. With Roha as the center, a violent wind suddenly arose. I can't see clearly. I have sand in my eyes. What the hell happened? Akainu seems to have been punched away by Roya. What? Akainu was punched away by Roya. Akainu was knocked into the sky. In the sky, Akainu only felt that his back seemed to have lost consciousness. He had no choice at all to make other movements in the air. I only felt wave after wave of pain, as well as the taste of blood in my mouth, constantly impacting my brain. Gritting his teeth, Akainu tried to adjust his condition. But how could Roya give Akainu this chance? Moonwalk! Although Moonwalk is not as powerful as a spell, due to his identity, he can only use Moonwalk. Fortunately, Moonwalk has reached its peak, and the speed will not be very slow. The sun shines on Roha's back. Everyone who looked at Roha subconsciously closed their eyes because of the glare of the sun. Akainu, didn't you say that my fruit ability is useless before? I just thought of a very useful use. It depends on whether you can bear it. Phantom Susanoo. A huge purple human figure was seen, wrapping Roha in it, directly blocking the sunlight. This has enabled many people to open their eyes. But when they opened their eyes, they saw Roya's terrifying fruit power. What on earth is this? This purple giant looks so powerful. Is it possible that you have any special abilities? The entire body of Phantom Susanoo is made of phantom, and because it is attached to itself, its armed color and haki can be 100% wrapped around Susanoo. As for other abilities, apart from looking very scary, there is only one 100% entangled weapon color. But don't underestimate this ability. You must know that Susanoo's size and 100% armed haki are very terrifying. Able to send people to the west with one punch. Akainu was stunned as he looked at the scene that covered the sky and the sun. He could not imagine at all what the fruit of Roha could achieve. Although he knew that the person in front of him was a phantom, but combined with Roha's arm-domineering power, Akainu could no longer imagine how powerful this move was. Akainu is not willing to give in, but he has no way to move his body now. Damn it, Roha! Bang! Before Akainu could finish speaking, Roha punched him mercilessly. Bang! Another voice sounded, and Akainu was like a meteor, hitting the training ground heavily. In the huge training ground, a huge pothole was smashed, with a diameter of 300 meters. In the center of the pothole was Akainu, who had passed out. Akainu resisted incompetently. Roha slowly put away his phantom. Slowly descending from the sky, there is no dust on the body. It looks like a normal game. It can be said to be extremely relaxed. There was silence on the training ground. They just looked at the scene in front of them quietly, and for a moment they were extremely shocked. Even Sengoku and Garp were quite shocked when they saw this scene. Time passed minute by minute. Roha looked at warring states next to him. Sir Fleet Admiral, can you announce the results now? Roya's voice broke the silence in the training ground. Suddenly, everyone came back to their senses from the shock. They looked at Roha in front of them and yelled Roha's name crazily. It's just that they added 2 more words in front of Roha's name. General Roya! General Roya! General Roya! Sengoku looked expressionless and said to the medical team next to him, Hurry up and treat Akainu! Then, warring states came to Roha's side, used the loudspeaker phone bug, and said to everyone present, Roya, be promoted to the position of general. When Khalifa in the crowd heard what warring states said, he rushed out of the crowd, threw himself into Roya's arms, and said to Roya, Roya, congratulations on becoming a general. Warring states looked at the 2 people in front of him, and sighed. It's great to be young. Roya, you are the first to be promoted to the position of general. When the other two generals stand out from the remaining two competitions, we will announce it to the world. Thank you, Fleet Admiral. Warring States waved his hand. What's the trouble? On the contrary, it is Marine with your presence that can make this seem more peaceful. Sengoku was extremely confident at this time. With Roha's presence, the new general would become a terrifying nightmare in the hearts of many pirates. 2 more days passed, and the other 2 competitions were completely completed. The result was exactly the same as Roha expected. After Akainu was defeated by himself, there were 2 promoted generals left. One was Akiji and the other was Kizaru. Coupled with Roha's presence, the 3 of them walked towards Sengoku's office with Roha as the center. Along the way, all the soldiers who saw the 3 of them were very respectful and bowed to them. Kizaru said to Roha next to him, Roha, have you decided on your title? All the generals' replacements have their own titles. For example, Kizaru, Momosaji, etc. Only Roha, who is about to become a general, has not yet determined his title. General Kizaru, I have already thought about it. Kizaru was indeed very tactful, and immediately said, General Luoya, you and I are both generals, just call me by my name or code name. At this time, Akiji also echoed, Yes, General Roya, you are the most powerful existence among us. The 2 of us were also present at the time. After seeing your ability, General Roya, I am ashamed of myself. General Akiji, General Kizaru, you too, please stop flattering me. I have already thought of my code name, let's call it White Pigeon. The white dove yearns for freedom and peace, is gentle and powerful, just like Roha, and it fits the bill. Then General Baigu, please give me more advice in the future. If you need help, just tell me directly. Akiji and Kizaru said this to Roha. Akiji made good friends with Roha because of their relationship with the Warring States period, while Kizaru felt that Roha was worth making friends with. As a representative of the Salted Fish faction, no, the neutral faction, Kizaru's skills in both directions can be said to be very good. Luoya saw the 2 of them singing together, and said in his heart, I didn't expect that one day I would join Marine and become a general, but this is obviously a good experience. It can be said that he now has 2 identities on the sea. One is a mysterious man who is always against Marine, and the other is the much-anticipated General Baigu. No matter which identity you need to use in the future, it can be said that it is very convenient. Just as Roha was thinking this, an electronic sound sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host who checked into the Warring States period office and obtained the peak realm of the Great Swordsman. As the electronic sound of the system fell, Luoya felt his body warm, and a lot of insights about the way of the sword appeared in Luoya's mind. Just as Roha had imagined before, Warring States office was also a relatively famous place. After all, it appears quite a lot in the original work. After quickly digesting these insights, Roha slowly pushed open Sengoku's office. The Warring States period has been waiting here for a long time. I saw Sengoku sitting in his fleet admiral seat, looking at the 3 people in front of him with calm eyes. Everyone, the 3 of you are strong men who have been screened out through the promotion conference. You have the true strength of generals. Especially Luoya, you really opened my eyes. I believe that with your existence, we can one day earlier clear the sea of pirates. Roya, have you thought about your name? White Dove. White Pigeon, very good. Sengoku nodded, and then arranged the positions of Shirogane, Kizaru, and Akiji as generals. This time, it was still the newspaper tycoon Morgans who got the news first. Above the sea, everyone who bought newspapers from Newspaper Bird saw the results of Marine's major change. Regarding Marine's major blood change, many people have turned their attention to the White Pigeon Roya who suddenly appeared this time. Some people think that Roha is extremely powerful, far more than the other 2 generals. After all, being able to defeat Akainu easily shows the problem. Some people think that Akainu is just too careless. At the same time, allowing an outsider to join Marine and become a general is a sign that Marine is about to die. But no matter which one it is, everyone will remember the appearance and name of Beige Luoya in their hearts. After Warring States finished speaking and the three of them were about to leave, Rojas suddenly saw a report on the table. This report shows Colonel Mouse, regarding the governance of Kokosia. Ding, release the check-in task, Kokosia Village, reward, Noah's Ark, time, 7 days. Noah's Ark. Rohan knew that this was the Oath's ship. According to the current timeline, it should be silent outside the Fishman Island. Thinking of Noah's Ark and its huge hull, Roha couldn't wait to sign in to Kokosia Village. Royal, do you have anything else to do? Warring States saw Roya hesitating there, so he said to Roha. Roha turned to look at Warring States, nodded slightly, and said, Sir Fleet Admiral, actually I am a little worried. Oh, tell me. After all, I joined suddenly. I was an unknown person before, so will it have a bad impact on Marine? No matter what the impact is, you are already a Marine general from now on. Roha showed a thoughtful look, and then said to Warring States, Sir Fleet Admiral, I want to take a month's leave to completely destroy my reputation. Are you planning to go out hunting pirates? Well, there are a lot of pirates who rob homes and are addicted to murder. In order to reduce the tragedy in my hometown, they happen again and again, so I plan to use a month to give them the harshest blow. Luo Ya's words fell into the ears of Warring States, causing Warring States to immediately slap the table and stand up. Okay. Luo Ya, I am really happy that you can have this realization, which means that I really didn't misjudge the person. What do you have? Is there a need for help somewhere? How many soldiers are needed? No need for soldiers, just give me a warship. I think you have a very good relationship with Khalifa. Why don't you let Khalifa be your deputy? In addition to the warship, I will equip you with a general-class warship. Thank you, Lord Fleet Admiral. No, these are all trivial matters. After exiting Sengoku's office, a cheerful smile appeared on Roha's lips. After spending so many days in Marineland, it's time to go out for a walk. After all, only by constantly signing in can he become stronger. If you want to live freely on this sea, only power can control your own destiny. Walking out of the building, I saw a dark shadow flickering. A black shadow flickered, and Khalifa threw herself directly into Roha's arms. She said excitedly to Roha, General, I have received the instructions from the Warring States period and become your adjutant. I will definitely take care of you and make you comfortable along the way. Roha looked at Khalifa's movements, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Khalifa doesn't know what kind of stimulation she has received recently, and she comes over to covet her at every turn. Okay, Khalifa, go get ready, we'll set off immediately. Are you so anxious? Of course, justice must be carried out without delay. The role of newspapers is still evolving. O'Hara. Robin, who had just finished exercising his fruit abilities, was in Alvia's arms, reading the newspaper in his hand. The 3 generals of Marine are officially announced. White Pigeon Roha is actually the strongest one. The biggest headline in the newspaper is this. Looking down along the title, Robin saw Roha's appearance. This was the first time Robin saw Roha, but for some reason, she relied on her intuition and immediately felt that the person in front of her was the real Roha. After all, there are basically no people named Roha in this sea. Mom, when will Brother Luoya come back to us? Robin stared at his big watery eyes and looked up at Alvia, with unspeakable expectation in his eyes. Don't worry, Robin, your brother Luoya will come back to see you soon, Olivia said to Robin. Robin nodded and looked at it again. Roha in the newspaper often had an inadvertent smile on his lips. 9 Snake Island. Hancock has awakened Conqueror's Haki by relying on the special training method of 9 Snake Island. At this time, she has been able to fight with the current emperor by relying on her fruit ability. She can be said to be a genius among geniuses. But think about it, even in the original work, Hancock's strength can be ranked. At this time, Groliosa came to Hancock's side. Hancock glanced at Guliliosa and said, Is there any news about Roha? Well, it's all in this newspaper. After Hancock heard what Guliliosa said, he changed his previous indifference. Peach cheeks suddenly became extremely rosy, and she took the newspaper directly from Guliliosa. Looking at Roya in the newspaper, Hancock felt like he was going to faint from happiness. Awesome, Roja! I finally saw your message. Croriosa looked in front of her. Hancock kept rubbing Roya's face on the newspaper. There were already many wrinkles on the face, but at this time, they were even more crowded together. Hancock, now Roya has joined Marine. Even I can't guess what Roya plans to do. We must be careful when contacting him in the future. What's wrong with joining Marine? Roja must have his reasons. Roja saved my life. Even if Roja wants to take it back, I won't have any complaints. Hancock looked at Groliosa in front of him and said, So did you just want to sow discord between us? At this time, Hancock had a frosty face and said in a cold voice, Anyone who speaks ill of Roja is my enemy. As Hancock's words fell, I saw Hancock's long legs, which were already beginning to show, wrapped around his armed domineering look, and directly kicked Croliosa into the sky. On the other side, on the sea, the wind was blowing with heavy rain. The waves are raging, one wave higher than the other. The moodiness of the great channel weather is most vividly reflected at this time. And in this environment of violent storms and roaring waves, there was a large pirate fleet of more than 50 ships sailing on the sea. However, in this environment, these 50 ships look so small. Captain Krieg, ship number 34 was damaged, and a large amount of seawater poured into the hull. Captain Krieg, the mast of ship number 12 is broken. If the personnel are not transferred, they will most likely die at sea. Captain Krieg. Krieg stood on the deck, holding the golden war gun tightly in his hand, listening to the reports that kept coming, his face full of gloom. He was full of confidence, marched from the East China Sea and entered the Great Waterway, hoping to let more people know about his reputation. But they never expected that they would encounter such a situation when they first entered the Great Channel. Abandon all ships with problems. Abandon it? But Captain Krieg, our combat effectiveness will be greatly reduced. Significantly reduced? It's just 4 or 5 ships, and Ding Petian only has 400 or 500 people. Krieg raised the big gun in his hand and said to the people beside him, You must know that we are a large fleet of 5,000 people. We are just abandoning 400 to 500 people. In terms of combat effectiveness, the loss is not much at all. Yes, I understand, Captain Krieg. The men retreated, and Krieg stood on the deck, looking at the surging waves, feeling unwilling to admit defeat. The Great Channel, this is the dream channel that countless pirates yearn for. As long as they all walk down it, it can be called One Piece. Only a name like One Piece can match my strength. Isn't it just the fighting strength of a few hundred people? When the time comes, I can find an island and I can fill up these hundreds of people again. In Krieg's view, his own strength is part of it, but more is the number of people. As long as there are enough, even a pile can kill them. He has been the king of the East China Sea for a long time by relying on the human wave tactics, which is why he has such strong self-confidence. It's just that he doesn't know that he is actually just a frog in the well. The violent storm comes and retreats just as quickly. After about half an hour, the wind and waves finally stopped. Captain Krieg, we have lost a total of 672 men and 6 ships. The man standing next to Krieg added. In addition, we found that there was a warship not far away, approaching quickly, but this warship seemed different from the ones we had seen before, and its size was larger. Bigger. A warship? Can you predict how many people there will be? According to the navigator's report, there are about 100 people. Only about 100 people? One warship! Ha ha ha, they are here to deliver the ship to us. Krieg laughed loudly, waved the big gun in his hand, and ordered to his men. Everyone listened to the order. Do not fire cannonballs, surround the warship in front of you. I want this marine warship. Captain Krieg is mighty. Captain Krieg is mighty. Captain Krieg is mighty. As Krieg finished speaking, the crew shouted Krieg's name excitedly. Above the endless sea, Roya and Khalifa stood on the deck of the Admiral-class warship. Behind him are hundreds of Roya's phantoms, operating the warships in an orderly manner. Khalifa held the reward order in his hand and said to Roja, Roya, We have been able to confirm that the 50 large pirate ships in front of us are the most notorious Krieg pirate group in the East China Sea. Known as the Admiral, and also known as the Overlord of the East China Sea, the number of crew members is estimated to be around 4,500. Based on the current intelligence, they should have just entered the Great Channel. Listening to Khalifa's report, the robe of justice behind Roja whirred in the sea breeze. He looked at the 50 ships in the distance and said softly, "With a bounty of 17 million, just to enter the Great Waterway, let's forget it." At this time, Khalifa also had a smirk on his face. Krieg is actually very lucky. He was able to meet the general just after entering the Great Waterway. This is the highest honor that others cannot encounter. After saying this, Khalifa looked at the Krieg fleet not far away with some shock. What do they want to do? Do they want to surround us? When Khalifa saw the large Krieg fleet, it dispersed and moved closer to them. For a moment he felt dumbfounded. Don't they know what this warship represents? It means at least having the combat power of a general. What does the general's combat power represent? That is one of Marine's high-end combat powers. Don't be surprised, it's just a frog in the well. At this moment, Krieg's voice came from afar. He used a loudspeaker to shout to Roja, "Warships in front, you are about to be surrounded by my Krieg fleet. Kneel down quickly. If you kneel down, I will leave a whole corpse for you, ha ha. Ha ha!" The wild laughter made Roja frown slightly. Noisy! The next second, the hundreds of phantoms on the warship were shattered. Before Krieg and the others could react, they saw Roya arriving directly above the sea. Why is he flying? How did he do that? How is this possible? How can a person fly? Could this be a monster in human skin? Hearing his men shouting randomly below, Krieg immediately shouted loudly, "This is just an ability user, look at how scared you are." Krieg's face was filled with gloom, and he twitched the corners of his mouth and said, "It's not like I haven't killed anyone with abilities before. It's just..." Before Krieg could finish speaking, everyone only saw a huge shadow, swallowing up their shadows. Susano! A terrifying existence like a giant appeared in front of them. I saw Roja standing between the giant's brows with his arms folded across his chest. The purple-black phantom shrouded Roja in it. The peak of armed domineering entangled the phantom, and only Roja's voice floated into the ears of these pirates. "If you are so weak, don't come to the Grand Channel to embarrass yourself." As Roya's words fell, I saw the fists hundreds of meters away, under Roja's control, mercilessly smash down towards them. Looking at the huge fist in the sky, their pupils continued to enlarge. They only felt infinite despair rising in their hearts. Is this the monster of the Grand Line? Is everyone in the Grand Channel so strong? This is too scary. Help me, someone help me. Captain, please save us. Wait, where's the captain? Krieg, who was originally standing on the deck, suddenly disappeared without knowing when. Many pirates looked at the darkness in each other's eyes and wanted to say something, but it was already too late. I saw Susanu's fist hitting the sea surface hard. The sea surface cracked instantly, just like the ground cracked. A huge pothole was created. Then, due to the characteristics of the seawater, they suddenly collided together, and what followed was a huge wave. The splashing waves are 100 meters long. In an instant, these pirate ships were swallowed up. Countless pirates fell into the water. However, at this time, the pothole turned into a whirlpool. Like a mercilessly devouring giant beast, it harvests the lives of pirates to its heart's content. On the warship, Khalifa's face was covered with cold sweat. She has arrived in the cockpit of the warship, struggling to control the rudder to prevent the warship from being swallowed by this huge whirlpool. There is no way, the power of this punch is really too powerful. Just one punch. Then the pirate fleet of nearly 5,000 people was wiped out. Countless people were swallowed by the whirlpool, and the pirate ship was shattered by the waves. What caused all this was the young man in the sky, with his hands folded across his chest, looking at everything in front of him with cold eyes. The youngest Marine general in history, White Pigeon. Seeing these pirates being swallowed by the whirlpool, Roja said softly, "Finally, they are a little cleaner." Susanu's phantom dissipated, and Roja landed on the warship. Then he said softly, "100 turn phantom." In an instant, 100 phantoms were created by Roja. They resumed operations on the warship. Seeing Khalifa walk out of the cockpit, Baijia's forehead was covered with fine drops of fragrant sweat. Roya chuckled at Khalifa and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Khalifa, who originally wanted to complain about Roja, immediately changed her words when she saw Roja's gentle smile. "It's okay, this is what I should do." As time went by, the sea slowly calmed down. Looking around, on the endless sea area, only Roya's warship was sailing on the sea. "Khalifa, how many days have we been out?" "It's been 5 days. Khalifa held up her glasses with her hand, looked at the small book she carried with her, and said to Roja, "We have now eliminated 7 pirate groups, and the combined bounty of all pirates in them has reached tens of billions. It's huge. Let's do this for now. Let's see what islands are nearby and let's go replenish supplies." Khalifa was like a secretary at this time and said, "The nearby islands are Kokosia and Sigam Island in the East China Sea. However, Sigam Island has been temporarily closed because Valpo wants to inherit the throne. Except for local ships, no one can access Sigam Island." "Stop." Hearing Khalifa's words, Roja raised the corners of his mouth slightly and said softly, "Then let's go to Kokosia village to replenish supplies." After leaving Marinafando, Roja did not immediately move towards Kokosia village. Instead, he continued to hunt pirates along the way, and under the control of Roja Yoshin, he came to the vicinity of Kokosia. It can be said that everything is under Roja's control,